I tell you this now, just as I have told countless men and women who once sat quietly before me, believing that life demanded effort, struggle, and endless striving. The greatest lie ever told to humanity is the idea that you must do something outside of yourself in order to receive what you desire. This lie has been whispered for so long, repeated so faithfully that it has come to feel like common sense, and yet it is the very thing that keeps you exhausted, disappointed, and forever searching. From the moment you awaken in this world, you are taught to chase. You are taught that happiness lies ahead of you, never where you stand. You are taught that security must be earned through struggle, that love must be pursued, that peace is the reward for endurance. And so you run. You run from one effort to another, from one hope to the next, always believing that if you could just do a little more, try a little harder, push yourself a little further, then life would finally open its doors to you. But it never quite does it? There is always another obstacle, another condition, another requirement. And so the wheel keeps turning. You exhaust yourself upon it, mistaking motion for progress, mistaking effort for power. Tonight, I want to bring that wheel to a complete stop. I want to show you, gently but unmistakably, that everything you have ever desired already exists within you now, not as a future possibility, not as a reward waiting at the end of your struggle, but as a present reality, complete and whole, awaiting only your acceptance. You see, most people believe the world they see is the cause of what they experience. They look at their circumstances and conclude that these circumstances define them. They say, I am limited because my environment is limited. They say, I am poor because I see lack. They say, I am unloved because I see no one reaching for me. And because they believe this, they accept it as truth. But I tell you, with absolute certainty, that you have it entirely reversed. The world you see is not the cause. It is the effect. It is not the source. It is the shadow. Just as a shadow cannot move unless the object casting it moves first, your world cannot change unless your consciousness changes first. The shadow follows. It never leads. And yet you have been chasing shadows all your life, trying to rearrange appearances, believing that if the reflection changed, the substance would somehow follow. Your bank balance is not the cause of your feeling of lack. It is the result of it. Your relationships are not the cause of your loneliness. They are the expression of it. Your limitations are not imposed upon you by life. They are accepted by you in consciousness. This may feel unsettling at first, because it removes the comfort of blame. It removes the idea that something outside of you is responsible for what you experience. But it also gives you something infinitely more valuable. It gives you power. For if the world is only a reflection, then you do not need to fight it. You do not need to force it. You do not need to manipulate. You need only change what it reflects. And this is where the words, do nothing, must be understood correctly. When I say do nothing, I am not asking you to withdraw from life. I am not asking you to become passive, indifferent, or careless. I am not suggesting that you abandon responsibility or retreat into inaction. What I am asking you to do is far more subtle and far more powerful. I am asking you to stop acting from fear. I am asking you to stop taking action that is born from the belief that your good is missing, distant, or withheld from you. I am asking you to cease the frantic movements of the mind that say, if I do not act now, I will lose my chance. Or, if I stop striving, everything will fall apart. That kind of action does not create. It confirms lack. Every action that is taken from desperation is a declaration that you do not have what you want. And consciousness, being faithful and impartial, reflects that declaration perfectly. This is why so much effort produces so little peace. This is why so much activity leads only to more exhaustion. True action, the kind that transforms life effortlessly, does not come from wanting. It comes from being. When your inner state changes, your outer behavior changes naturally. Not because you force it, but because it flows from who you now are. A person who knows they are secure does not scramble for security. A person who knows they are loved does not chase love. A person who knows they are provided for does not act from panic. They move differently. They speak differently. They decide differently. And the world responds accordingly. This is the great secret that so few ever grasp. You do not act in order to become something. You act because you already are it in consciousness. The moment you stop trying to fix the shadow and instead turn inward to the source, something remarkable happens. The pressure lifts, the urgency dissolves, the endless mental noise begins to quiet. And in that quiet, for the first time, you begin to feel something unfamiliar. Relief. Not relief because circumstances have changed, but relief because you no longer believe they are the cause. Relief because you sense, perhaps faintly at first, that there is nothing you need to chase, nothing you need to force, nothing you need to earn. This is the beginning of wisdom. And as you rest here, listening, allowing these ideas to settle without resistance, you may notice a subtle shift taking place, not a dramatic one, not something you need to analyze, just a gentle loosening, as though the grip you have held on life for so long is beginning to relax. That is enough for now. You are not required to understand everything immediately. You are not required to agree. You are not required to believe. All that is asked of you in this moment is that you stop running. Simply listen. Simply rest. Simply allow the possibility that everything you have been seeking has never been ahead of you at all. It has always been within. Before we go any further, there is something that must be understood, not intellectually, but inwardly, quietly, in the depth of your own being. For everything I have said, and everything I will say, rests upon this single truth. It is a truth so simple that the world has overlooked it, and so profound that once it is seen, nothing can ever be the same again. Before there was a world, before there was a body, before there was a name given to you by others, there was only one declaration, not spoken aloud, not written, not taught. It simply was. I am. This is not a phrase. It is not an affirmation. It is not a statement you repeat in hope that something might change. I am is identity itself. It is the sense of being, the awareness that knows it exists. Before you can say anything about yourself, before you can describe yourself as rich or poor, loved or unloved, free or confined, there is first this silent knowing, I am. In the ancient scriptures, when Moses asked the voice from the burning bush to give its name, the answer was not a title, not a description, not a form. The answer was simply, I am that I am. Not I will be. Not I was. I am. This was not poetry. It was not symbolism. It was a revelation of identity. I tell you plainly, that name is your name, not borrowed, not shared, not symbolic, yours. You may have been taught to think of God as something distant, something separate, something above or beyond you. You may have been taught to pray outward, to beg, to ask, to hope that some external power might intervene in your life. But all such teaching misses the truth entirely. God is not found in the sky. God is not found in temples made by human hands. God is not found in rituals, ceremonies, or spoken pleas. God is found in the simple, undeniable fact that you are aware of being. That awareness is God. When you say, I am, you are not describing yourself. You are declaring the creative power that animates your world. And whatever you attach to I am, you bring into being. This is why I have warned, time and again, to be careful how you complete that phrase. For every time you say I am, whether aloud or silently within yourself, you are shaping your reality. When you say I am tired, you are not merely reporting a condition, you are assuming a state. When you say I am unlucky, you are not making an observation, you are giving life to a concept. When you say I am not enough, you are not being honest, you are being creative. Most people are completely unaware of this. They move through life declaring themselves into limitation, into struggle, into disappointment, and then wonder why the world seems so resistant, so heavy, so unkind. They do not realize that consciousness is never passive. It is always creating. It cannot stop creating. It only creates according to what it assumes itself to be. I am is the beginning of everything, but it is also the most dangerous thing to misuse. For when you say, I am poor, consciousness accepts it without question. When you say, I am unloved, it does not argue. When you say, I am trapped, it does not resist. It simply says, so be it. And the world rearranges itself to confirm your declaration. Not because the world is cruel, not because God is testing you, but because consciousness is faithful. It never judges. It never questions. It only reflects. This is why I tell you that God is not rewarding or punishing you. God is expressing you. What you assume yourself to be, God expresses as your world. Now listen to this carefully, and let it sink in slowly. I am is not something you say to get something. It is something you recognize about yourself. The moment you understand that I am is who you are, not something you use, the struggle ends. You stop trying to convince yourself of things. You stop forcing thoughts. You stop repeating words mechanically. You begin instead to rest in being. If you say, I am secure, not as a hope, not as a wish, but as an identity, the feeling of security begins to permeate you. And from that feeling, actions arise naturally. Choices change quietly. Circumstances respond gently. Not because you made them respond, but because they had no choice. This is why I do not teach effort. This is why I do not teach struggle. This is why I do not teach discipline of the outer world. All discipline is inward. All mastery is identity. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are conscious of being. And now, I must say something that may feel unsettling at first, but which is essential for your freedom. There is no neutral use of I am. Every time you say it, you are choosing. Even when you think you are simply describing your circumstances, you are selecting a state. Even when you say nothing aloud, your inner conversations are filled with silent declarations of I am. These inner statements, whispered in moments of fatigue, disappointment, or fear, are far more powerful than spoken prayers, for they are believed, and what is believed must be expressed. This is why changing words alone is not enough. You must change the sense of self behind the words. You must move from saying, I am trying to resting in, I am. The moment you stop striving to become, and instead allow yourself to be, something extraordinary happens. The tension dissolves. The need to control fades. The urgency to fix everything disappears. You begin to feel, perhaps for the first time, what it means to be anchored. Not anchored to circumstances, not anchored to outcomes, but anchored to being itself. And from that place, the world begins to soften. You may notice, as you listen now, that the mind wants to rush ahead. It wants instructions. It wants techniques. It wants to know what to do next. Gently let that impulse pass. You are not meant to do anything right now. You are meant to remember. Remember that before you were anything in the world, you were I am. Before any success or failure, you were I am. Before any story about who you are, you were I am. Nothing has ever taken that from you, and nothing ever can. Rest here for a moment. Let these words wash over you without effort. You do not need to analyze them. You do not need to hold on to them. Simply allow them to settle, like water finding its own level. For everything that follows depends not on what you do, but on who you allow yourself to be. Now let us go deeper still, for here is where the mind often resists most strongly, and yet where the greatest freedom is found. I want you to understand something that may at first feel difficult to accept, not because it is untrue, but because it contradicts everything you have been taught to believe about life, time, and progress. There is not one life unfolding step by step in a straight line. There is not a single version of you slowly moving forward, hoping to arrive somewhere better one day. That idea belongs entirely to the world of appearances. It is not how reality truly works. All states of being already exist. Not some of them, not only the pleasant ones. All of them. Wealth exists as a state. Poverty exists as a state. Love exists as a state. Loneliness exists as a state. Health exists as a state. Sickness exists as a state. Freedom exists as a state. Limitation exists as a state. They all exist now fully formed, complete and available. You are not here to create them. You are here to occupy them. This is where so many misunderstand me. They believe imagination is a tool to build something new in the future. They believe they are trying to bring something into existence that does not yet exist. But nothing could be further from the truth. Creation is finished. Everything that can be experienced already exists in what I have called the infinite states of being. You do not move forward in time to reach a better life. You move inward in consciousness to a different state. Think of it not as a journey, but as a change of position. You are not climbing a ladder. You are stepping into a room. Right now, as you listen to these words, there exists a version of you who is deeply at peace. There exists a version of you who is secure, confident, and fulfilled. There exists a version of you who is loved without effort, provided for without strain, and free without condition. These are not dreams. They are not ideals. They are not wishes. They are states. And you move between them not by time, not by effort, not by merit, but by assumption. This is why I say you do not become something. You assume it. The moment you assume a state, you occupy it. And the moment you occupy it, you become it. Not eventually, not later. Now, the world you see may not change immediately, because the world you see is always echoing past assumptions. It is always slightly behind you. But do not let that trouble you. The shadow must follow the substance. It has no choice. This is where the idea of progress must be gently laid to rest. You do not progress toward wealth. You do not progress toward love. You do not progress toward love. You do not progress toward freedom. Progress implies distance, and distance implies separation. And there is no separation. There is only selection. You select a state by feeling it as natural, not by thinking about it, not by desiring it, not by wishing it would come, but by accepting it as who you are now. If you desire to be free, freedom is not something you chase. It is a state you occupy. You feel yourself to be free. You rest in that feeling. You allow it to become familiar. And then quite naturally, life begins to mirror it. If you desire abundance, abundance is not something you earn. It is a state you step into. You assume the feeling of being provided for. You allow that feeling to become normal, and the world reshapes itself around that assumption. This is why effort so often fails. Effort is the confession that you are not already there. Effort says, I am not yet what I want to be. And consciousness faithfully reflects that delay. But assumption collapses distance. When you assume, you are no longer waiting. You are being. And being has consequences. You may notice that the mind protests here. It says, but this sounds unrealistic. This sounds too simple. Surely there must be a process. That voice is not your enemy. It is simply the voice of habit. It has been trained to believe that life must be difficult, that nothing comes without struggle, that ease is suspicious. Let that voice speak. Do not argue with it. Simply do not follow it. Return again and again to this truth. You are not here to create a better future. You are here to select a different present. Every state is available now. The only question is, which one feels natural to you? And here is the subtlety that makes all the difference. You cannot occupy two states at once. You cannot feel secure and insecure simultaneously. You cannot feel fulfilled and longing at the same time. One excludes the other. This is why feeling is the secret. Feeling is the sign of the state you are in. If you feel anxious, you are in the state of anxiety. If you feel confident, you are in the state of confidence. If you feel loved, you are in the state of love. And whatever state you occupy must externalize itself, because that is the law. So you see now why I tell you that nothing needs to be forced, nothing needs to be chased, nothing needs to be made to happen. Your only work, if we can call it work at all, is to notice the state you are in, and gently, without violence, without struggle, allow yourself to move into another. You do not drag yourself there. You do not fight your way there. You simply accept it. Just as you accept being awake when you awaken, and being asleep when you fall asleep. It happens naturally when you stop resisting. This is why the quiet moments are so powerful. This is why the moments before sleep are sacred. This is why listening now, without effort, without analysis, is already doing more than years of striving. You are being introduced, slowly and safely, to a different way of living. A way that does not exhaust you. A way that does not demand endless proof. A way that does not ask you to fight the world. It asks you only to choose, and you will choose not with words, not with promises, not with vows, but with feeling. As you rest here, allow yourself to sense the possibility that the life you desire is not ahead of you, but beside you, not distant, but present, not waiting to be built, but waiting to be entered. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be fixed. You are simply invited to step into a different room. Now listen carefully, for this is the point at which most people look in the wrong direction and miss the moment that changes everything. They wait for proof. They wait for evidence. They wait for the world to move first. And because they wait, they remain exactly where they are. The change does not occur when you see it. The change occurs when you assume it. This is not poetry. It is not metaphor. It is a law as precise and reliable as any law you observe in the physical world. The instant you assume a state, you enter it. That is the moment of change. Everything else is merely the echo. Consciousness does not hesitate. Consciousness does not delay. Consciousness does not negotiate. The moment you feel yourself to be something, you are that thing. Not in appearance yet, perhaps, but in truth. And truth always precedes appearance. The world you see moves more slowly. Not because it resists you, but because it is an after-image. It is always showing you what you have been, never what you have just become. This is why judging your assumption by what you see is the most subtle trap of all. You look outward and say, nothing has changed. And consciousness replies, of course not. You have only just changed. If you were to look into a mirror and smile, you would not accuse the mirror of failing because it did not smile first. You understand instinctively that the reflection must follow, and yet with life, you demand that the reflection move before you do. This is the inversion that keeps so many waiting. I tell you plainly, the moment you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the creative act is finished. Finished, not begun. Not in progress. Finished. The delay you experience afterward is not creation taking place. It is only translation. Consciousness has moved instantly. The world is catching up. This is why impatience is so destructive. It is not because impatience is morally wrong. It is because impatience pulls you out of the state you have just entered. It says, perhaps it is not done yet. And in saying that, you undo what you have done. But when you understand that the change is instantaneous, something in you relaxes. You stop checking. You stop measuring. You stop watching the clock. You stop asking when. You stop wondering how. You rest. And rest is not inactivity. Rest is confidence. Rest is the quiet, knowing that nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be improved. Nothing needs to be helped along. The seed has been planted. The soil knows what to do. I have said often that after you have assumed your state, you must enter the Sabbath. And many misunderstand this, believing it to be some form of idleness or withdrawal. But the Sabbath is simply the state of rest that follows creation. When God finished creation, he rested. Not because he was weary, but because the work was complete. In the same way, when you have assumed your state, you rest. Not because you have given up, but because there is nothing left to do. This rest is not forced. It comes naturally when you truly accept that the assumption is done. It is the feeling of relief that comes when a burden is laid down. It is the quiet ease that follows certainty. You will recognize it not by excitement, but by calm. Excitement belongs to anticipation. Calm belongs to possession. If you find yourself excited, hopeful, anxious, or eager, you are still looking ahead. You are still waiting. But when the state is truly assumed, there is a gentle settling within you, a sense that things are already in motion without your supervision. This is the state I want you to know. And you do not enter it by force. You enter it by trust. Trust not in something outside of you, but trust in the law itself. Trust that consciousness is creative. Trust that assumption is causative. Trust that what you have felt as real must, by its very nature, express itself. When doubt arises, and it will, do not fight it. Fighting gives it substance. Simply return to the feeling of being, not to thoughts, not to words, to the feeling. Ask yourself quietly, how would I feel if this were already done? Then feel that without strain, that feeling is the state. Remain there gently, return there often, and do nothing else. The world will rearrange itself in ways you could never have planned. People will move, circumstances will shift, opportunities will appear, but none of that is your concern. Your concern ends the moment you assume. From there on, your only task is to rest. Rest in the knowledge that the change has already occurred where it matters most. Rest in the understanding that you are not waiting for life to give you permission. Rest in the quiet confidence that the world must follow. As you listen now, perhaps lying down, perhaps letting your body grow heavy, allow this sense of rest to deepen. There is nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to repeat, nothing you need to do. The moment has already passed. You have assumed, and now, everything else can take care of itself. Let me now take you gently into the heart of the mystery, the place where words fall away, and understanding becomes something you feel rather than something you think. For if there is one secret I have repeated all my life, one truth I have watched men hear and yet still miss, it is this: feeling is the secret. Not feeling as emotion in the dramatic sense, not excitement, not enthusiasm, not strain or effort. I speak of feeling as a state of being, a quiet, inward knowing, a sense of this is so. You see, the subconscious does not listen to your words. It never has. You may repeat 1,000 statements with your lips, and if the feeling beneath them contradicts the words, the feeling will always prevail. The subconscious is not impressed by sound. It is impressed by sensation. It understands only the language of states. When I say state, I mean the total mood, the inner atmosphere you live in. Not what you say you are, but what you feel yourself to be, when no one is watching, when the mind is quiet, when the day is done. A man may say, I am wealthy, and yet feel the tightness of fear in his chest, the heaviness of lack, the constant tension of needing. The subconscious hears none of the words. It responds only to the tension, and so it continues to produce conditions that justify that tension. Another may say nothing at all, yet inwardly feel a deep ease, a sense of sufficiency, a natural expectation that things work out, and life rearranges itself to match that feeling without effort, without struggle, without explanation. This is why I have always told my students, do not try to convince yourself with words. Allow yourself to enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The subconscious does not reason. It does not argue. It does not compare. It does not ask whether something is logical or likely. It simply accepts what you feel to be true and expresses it. Feeling is its language, and the feeling it responds to is not, I will be. It is not, I hope. It is not, I am trying. It is I am. It is the sensation of already being in possession, the calm familiarity of something that no longer surprises you, the inner posture of someone for whom the desire is no longer a desire, but a fact. This is why effort is so often the enemy. Effort implies distance. Effort implies struggle. Effort implies that something is not yet so, and the subconscious faithfully reproduces that implication. But feeling implies presence. Feeling implies completion. Feeling implies that the matter is settled. You do not strain to feel what is already yours. You simply rest in it. Think of something you already have in your life. Your name, your place of birth, the fact that you exist. You do not affirm these things. You do not visualize them. You do not work yourself into believing them. You feel them as natural, obvious, unquestioned. That is the feeling I am speaking of. And here is the gentle truth. You do not need to create this feeling. You only need to allow it. It is not something you manufacture. It is something you slip into, like a familiar chair, like a well-worn garment. When you imagine, do not imagine to see. Imagine to feel. Do not watch yourself from the outside. Enter the scene. Be in it. Let it happen around you. Let it touch you. Let it involve your senses, softly, without force, and then notice the subtle shift, the easing, the sense of yes. That is the moment the subconscious accepts the impression. This acceptance does not announce itself with fireworks. It often feels almost ordinary. That is why so many miss it. They expect a surge, a thrill, a dramatic confirmation. But the real sign is quietness. When the feeling is right, there is no urgency. You are not trying to make something happen. You are not waiting for proof. You are simply being. And the subconscious responds instantly. It responds because it cannot do otherwise. Every night of your life, you enter states unconsciously. You replay conversations. You feel regrets. You relive disappointments. You imagine futures filled with worry or fear, and the subconscious takes these impressions and faithfully externalizes them. This is not punishment, it is obedience. The same mechanism that produces struggle produces fulfillment. The difference is only the state you occupy. So I say to you, gently, lovingly, choose the feeling you sleep in. Do not be concerned with detail. Do not try to outline events. Do not attempt to control the path. Simply feel the end. Feel the relief of being free. Feel the ease of having enough. Feel the quiet joy of being loved, secure, complete. Let that feeling be soft. Let it be slow. Let it be steady. Return to it again and again, not as an exercise, but as a refuge. And if the mind wanders, bring it back, not with force, but with kindness, as you would guide a child back to bed. The subconscious is most receptive when the feeling is gentle and unresisted. This is why the state akin to sleep is so powerful. In that drowsy borderland, feeling flows more easily than thought. Sensation replaces analysis, and the subconscious opens itself without defense. In that moment, the feeling of already is slips in naturally. No argument, no effort, no resistance. And once it is received, it must express itself. You may not know when, you may not know how, but you will know it is done, because the feeling will no longer be something you visit. It will be something you live from. That is the secret. Not words, not willpower, not effort. Feeling. Remain there, and everything else follows. And here, if you listen closely, something begins to change in you. Not because you have learned a new idea, but because the old desperation starts to loosen its grip. You begin to sense, quietly, almost without words, that life is not a battlefield you must conquer, but an echo you are hearing. And when you realize you are the voice, not the echo, a strange inevitability enters the heart. Not the brittle kind of inevitability that comes from forcing outcomes, but the gentle inevitability of a seed in fertile ground. Once it is planted, once it is accepted, it grows. It does not grow because you argue with the soil. It grows because it is its nature to grow. I have seen men come to me who were exhausted, not from work, but from inner struggle. They were tired of trying to believe, tired of dragging their minds like a heavy cart up a steep hill. And I would watch their faces change when they finally understood the law does not respond to strain. It responds to acceptance. So, let me take you into living stories, not to entertain you, but to let the truth clothe itself in flesh. Because a principle becomes real when you see it breathe in ordinary life. There was a quiet man who carried money troubles like a constant weight in his shoulders. It was not only the bills, it was the humiliation, the feeling of being behind life, of being chased by time, of always being the one who must catch up. He had tried every outer remedy, first extra hours, new schemes, anxious calculation, and every effort, though it seemed sensible, only deepened the feeling underneath: I do not have enough. When he came to me, he expected a plan. He expected instruction on what to do, and I told him something that offended his reason. I said, "You are not poor because of figures. You are poor because you are faithful to the feeling of being poor." He argued at first, softly, politely, but his mind resisted. "But Neville," he said, "the facts are the facts." And I answered him, "The facts are the shadow. They are the harvest of yesterday. Do you want to worship the harvest, or would you like to plant a new seed?" He did not need to become a banker in his imagination. He did not need to see vaults, or piles of currency, or grand pictures that felt unnatural to him. He needed one thing: the inward relief of being secure, the feeling of paying what must be paid without fear, the feeling of being able to breathe. So I asked him, "What would you feel if you were free of this pressure?" And he said, "I would feel quiet." That was his word. Quiet. Not excited. Not triumphant. Quiet. So I told him to enter that quiet each night as he lay down. Not to wrestle with his mind. Not to force pictures, but to sink into the mood of quiet security, as though a heavy burden had been lifted. I told him to imagine, very simply, taking a bill and marking it paid, not 100 bills, one, and to feel the ease of it. He did it without enthusiasm, but with sincerity. And something curious happened. Within days, he began to move differently. Not because he was trying to act wealthy, but because the fear was no longer driving him. He spoke with more calm. He answered letters without dread. He noticed opportunities he had previously overlooked, not because they were not there, but because panic blinds you. And in what seemed to be an ordinary chain of events, an old contact, a delayed payment finally arriving, a small opening that led to a larger one, the pressure began to dissolve. He did not force money to appear. He changed the state that had been commanding his life to reflect lack, and the world, obedient as ever, reorganized around the new command. Now, if you listen carefully, you will hear the benefit before the technique. The benefit was not money. The benefit was the end of strain, the end of that inner choking, the restoration of ease. And once ease was felt as true, the outer world simply found ways to justify it. Money is only one symbol. The real prize is the change of state. I remember a woman who came with a different hunger. Hers was not financial. Hers was the ache of being unwanted, not unloved in theory. She had friends, acquaintances, people who were polite, but she carried the deep assumption that she was always the one left behind, always the one who gave more, always the one who hoped someone would finally choose her. Now, the tragedy is that such a person does not merely experience lonely circumstances. She radiates loneliness as a state, and life, again faithful, reflects it. Even when love approaches, she cannot receive it cleanly, because she is still loyal to the feeling, "It won't last, I am not the one." When she came to me, she told me many stories, and all the stories had the same fragrance: rejection, different faces, different moments, same inner conclusion. And I said to her, "You have been faithful to a state, you have been loyal to an identity, but you can change it." She asked, as so many do, "How do I make someone love me?" And I said, "My dear, you do not make anyone do anything. You change what you are conscious of being, and the world must show you that consciousness." And here again, I did not give her a list. I did not tell her to watch signs. I told her to go to the end. Not the end of marriage, not the end of rings and ceremonies and grand events. Those may come or may not come in the form she imagines, but the end of being chosen, the end of being cherished, the end of being secure in love. I asked her, "What would you feel like if you were truly beloved?" And she said, "I would feel safe." There it was again, simple, safe. So I told her to lie down at night and let herself feel safe in love. To imagine, if it helped, a short scene that implied it, hearing a simple phrase, feeling an embrace, reading a note. But the scene was not the power. The power was the feeling of being cherished as a fact. She began to do it. And at first she would cry, not because it wasn't working, but because she had lived so long outside that feeling that entering it felt like coming home to a place she thought was lost. And then, in the most natural way, the outer world responded. People treated her differently. Not because she demanded it, not because she changed her clothes or her tactics, but because she was no longer begging silently with her eyes. She was no longer asking the world to validate her existence. She was resting in the assumption that she was worthy of love. And do you know what happens when you stop pleading for love? Love can finally approach you. In her case, one relationship that had been uncertain suddenly clarified itself. A man who had been wavering became steady. And she, because she had changed, could receive steadiness without suspicion. Again, listen to the benefit first. Peace, safety, the end of inner hunger, the end of chasing. And then, after the state was accepted, the world supplied the reflection. I have known those who came to me for freedom. Not freedom from a person, but freedom from themselves. Freedom from the inner prison of anxiety. They would say, "Neville, I can't rest. Even when nothing is wrong, I am braced for something to go wrong." Their minds were like a room full of noise. Now the outer world may show chains or no chains, but the real bondage is the state. A man may live in a large home and still feel trapped. Another may live in a small room and feel free. So I would ask, what is freedom to you? And they would often describe circumstances, travel, wealth, the ability to go and do. But I would bring them back inward. No, I would say, what would you feel? And almost always it was the same: lightness, spaciousness, the feeling of having time, the feeling of being unthreatened. So I told one man not to fight his anxious thoughts like an enemy, but to replace the state they came from. For thoughts are the offspring of state. Change the womb and the offspring change. He did not need to imagine a different calendar. He needed to imagine his own body at ease, to feel his breath slow, to enter a mood where tomorrow was not a predator. And he began to practice this not as a struggle, but as a surrender. Each night, as he drifted toward sleep, he would feel himself lying in a world that was friendly, not perfect, friendly, safe enough to breathe. And then, as the days passed, he found himself making choices differently. He stopped agreeing to things out of fear. He stopped filling every silence with activity. He stopped chasing approval, and the outer rearranged itself because the inner had changed. Freedom appeared as better circumstances. Yes, but first it appeared as a quieter man. And there are those who come for health. Here I speak carefully, not because the law is weak, but because men often misunderstand me and turn the teaching into superstition. The principle is the same. The subconscious responds to feeling as reality. But health, like all things, is a state, and your body is the servant of the state you occupy. I have seen people dwell in the feeling of being fragile, and the body obliges. I have seen others enter the feeling of vitality, and the body begins to reflect it. But do not make this a harsh demand upon yourself. If you approach health with fear, you are planting fear. So I would say to the one who suffers, do not make your prayer a wrestling match. Let it be a yielding. What would you feel if your body were strong? Not what would you do, not how would you prove it, but what would you feel? Often they say relief or comfort, or simply, I would stop thinking about it. That last one is very revealing. For true health is naturalness. When you are well, you do not spend all day checking. You live. So I would tell them to enter, at night, the feeling of relief, to imagine themselves waking refreshed, to feel their limbs light, to feel the simple pleasure of moving without concern, not as a fantasy, but as a present mood. And if pain shouted, I would not tell them to deny the pain with anger. I would tell them to place their attention where they wish to dwell, to return again and again to the mood of ease, as one returns to a familiar melody. Now, do you see the thread through all these stories? In every case, the change begins with the benefit, relief, safety, quietness, freedom, ease. And then the technique is simply the vehicle for entering that benefit as a state. The scene is the doorway. The feeling is the possession. And once the feeling of already is entered, even briefly but sincerely, the subconscious accepts it. And when it accepts it, life begins to move with a kind of inevitability, not because you are forcing it, but because you have ceased contradicting it. And this is where we must speak of action, because many misunderstand and turn this teaching into either frantic effort or lazy passivity. Both are mistakes, because both are reactions to ignorance of the law. There is action born of lack, and there is action born of fulfillment. They may look similar on the outside, but they are worlds apart within. Action born of lack is restless, it is anxious, it has the taste of I must or else. It is the man who sends one more letter, makes one more call, begs one more time, not because he is moved naturally, but because fear is whipping him forward. It is the woman who tries to be pleasing, tries to be perfect, tries to be anything but herself, because she is secretly assuming she is not enough. It is the person who cannot sit still, because stillness would reveal the emptiness they are trying to outrun. And what does that action do? It reinforces the state that produced it. Every frantic attempt to get is an admission. I do not have. And the subconscious, faithful to your admission, continues to make the world mirror not having. But action born of fulfillment is entirely different. It is quiet. It is natural. It has no desperation in it. It is what you would do if it were already true. Do you see the difference? When you feel secure, you do not chase security. You make decisions from it. When you feel loved, you do not hunt for love. You respond from love. When you feel free, you do not fight the world for permission. You move as freedom. When you feel prosperous, you do not grasp at money with fear. You handle life with ease, and money finds its channels. This is why I told you earlier, do nothing properly understood means do nothing that is born of fear. Do nothing that is an attempt to force the shadow to change while you keep the same substance. Change the substance, your state, and then watch what kind of action begins to arise on its own, because it will. The person who truly feels the wish fulfilled does not become inert. He becomes guided. He begins to act without strain, to move without pressure, to choose without panic. The bridge of incidents forms, and he walks it, not like a man dragging chains, but like a man following a quiet invitation. And this, my dear listener, is what it feels like. When you stop forcing, you stop measuring every hour, you stop asking, is it working? You stop scanning the world like a hunter. You stop punishing yourself for doubts. You return to the feeling, and from that feeling, right action flows, not as a technique, but as the natural expression of who you now are. So if you find yourself compulsively trying to do more to make it happen, pause. Do not condemn yourself. Just notice what state you are in. For action always reveals state. If your action tastes like fear, you are in the state of fear. If your action tastes like lack, you are in the state of lack. If your action tastes like forcing, you are in the state of not having. And the remedy is never more action. The remedy is a change of state. Return to the end. Return to the feeling of already being. Rest there until it becomes natural. And then, without effort, you will find yourself doing what is right, without desperation, because you are no longer trying to get to the state. You are living from it. And when you live from it, everything begins to fall into place in a way that feels almost too simple. Not because life has become your servant through struggle, but because you have finally stopped arguing with the law that has been serving you all along. Now let us go deeper still, Because the moment you begin to feel this inevitability, the mind will ask its oldest question. But how long? And the answer to that question is not found in time, but in a mystery you have already touched: naturalness. Now we come to a point that, if you truly accept it, will remove from you one of the greatest burdens mankind has ever carried. For so many are not struggling against life itself. They are struggling against time. They are trying to outrun yesterday. They are trying to hurry tomorrow. They are trying to force an hour to arrive before it is ready. And in that struggle, they exhaust themselves. But I tell you, time as you commonly think of it is not the power you believe it to be. Time is a garment worn by the senses. It is how the outer man measures the shadow. Yet in consciousness, there is no shadow and there is no clock. There is only being. You have assumed that you must move through life like a traveler moving down a long road, past behind you, future ahead of you, and you in the middle trying to reach something distant. And because you accept this picture, you feel delay. You feel distance. You feel that what you desire is far away. But the truth is far simpler and far more startling. Everything exists now, not everything you can see. Everything you can be, every state, every condition, every version of self. The fulfilled one, the lonely one, the prosperous one, the afraid one, the free one, the bound one. These are not created one after another, like buildings raised brick by brick. They exist as states, complete, whole, waiting to be occupied. That is why I told you earlier that you do not create. You select, you move, you shift. A man says, I will become, and he believes he is traveling toward a distant day, when life will finally grant him permission to be what he wants to be. But I say to you, the day you are waiting for is not ahead of you. It is within you. It is a state, and you may enter it now, in this moment, by assuming it. If you truly understood this, you would stop bargaining with time. You would stop saying, how long will it take? For that question only has power. If you believe you must manufacture a future, the future is not manufactured. It is not built like a house from raw materials. The future is revealed, revealed as the natural outpicturing of the state you occupy now. And the past, oh, the past is the great tyrant for many. They say, but Neville, you do not know what has happened to me. And I answer, I do not deny what you have experienced. I deny that it must remain the cause of what you experience next. For the past is not fixed in consciousness. The past is only alive insofar as you keep it alive. It is only powerful insofar as you continue to enter it, feel it, and call it true. Most people do this without knowing it. They revisit yesterday as though it were a holy shrine. They rehearse old conversations, old insults, old failures, old embarrassments, old pains, night after night, sometimes day after day. And in that rehearsal, they do not merely remember, they re-enter the state. And when they re-enter the state, they reproduce tomorrow in the image of yesterday. So I tell you something that may sound almost too gentle to be powerful. You can change the past, not by fighting it, not by condemning yourself, not by trying to erase it with force, but by revising it, by giving it a new meaning, a new tone, a new outcome in consciousness. And because consciousness is the only reality, that revision is not a pretty fantasy. It is an actual change in the cause. If the cause changes, the effects must change. If the seed is changed, the harvest must change. Now I want you to hear me carefully, because many are harsh with themselves. They take a teaching like this and they turn it into another form of struggle. They say, I must revise perfectly. I must do it without one stray thought. No, no, this is not a whip. It is a balm. Revision is done best, not in a mood of strain, but in a mood of tenderness. It is almost like lulling a child to sleep. You do not argue with a child to calm him. You soothe him. You give him another picture. You give him safety, and he accepts it, not because you proved it, but because you persuaded him with feeling. So let me tell you how I have taught revision to those who are weary, those who carry memories like stones in their pockets. At the end of the day, As you are preparing for sleep, you let the body become still. You do not rush. You do not treat this as a task. You simply enter that soft borderland where the outer senses relax their grip, where the mind becomes like a quiet room. And then you take some little scene from your day or from your past that still stings you, not the entire tragedy of a lifetime. Do not overwhelm yourself. Choose one scene, one moment, one sentence, one glance, something small enough to hold gently. Perhaps someone spoke to you sharply. Perhaps you were dismissed. Perhaps you felt foolish. Perhaps you failed to say what you wished you had said. Perhaps you felt unwanted in a room. Perhaps you heard a word that lodged in you like a thorn. Now, as you lie there, you do not fight the thorn. You do not shout at it. You simply remove it, quietly, by changing the scene in imagination. Hear the voice softened. See the face friendly. Feel the moment go the way it ought to have gone. And most importantly, feel the relief of it. Feel the sweetness of it. Feel the yes, that is how it is. You are not trying to convince the outer world. You are changing the inner record. And the inner record is what life plays back to you. People ask, but Neville, am I not lying to myself? And I answer, you have been lying to yourself all your life. Only you did not call it that. Every time you accepted an appearance as final, you lied because appearances are not final. Every time you said, this is just how I am, you lied. Because you are not a fixed thing. You are consciousness, and consciousness is fluid. Revision is not deception. It is liberation. It is taking the power out of an old state and placing it back where it belongs in you. And when you revise, do it as though you are writing a love letter to your own soul. Do it with softness. Do it with patience. Do it without anger toward yourself for having lived it one way before. For many have this strange cruelty. They punish themselves for not knowing yesterday what they know today. But you were asleep then. Now you are beginning to awaken, and you do not scold a man for having been asleep. You simply wake him. So I tell you, revision is the art of waking up from the tyranny of the past. And do you know what happens when you revise faithfully night after night? You begin to feel lighter without knowing why. You begin to notice that old triggers lose their sting. You begin to find that people treat you differently. You begin to find that circumstances rearrange themselves in ways you could not have planned. Why? Because you are no longer broadcasting the old state. You are no longer feeding life the same seed. You have changed the inner story, and the outer must conform. This is why I say time yields. Because when you revise, you are no longer bound to what happened. You are bound only to what you are conscious of being now. And that now is the only creative moment. If you want to understand this more deeply, consider your dreams. In a dream, you may live an entire lifetime in what seems like minutes. The dream does not obey your clocks. It obeys your consciousness. And your waking life is not as different as you suppose. It too is consciousness objectified. So when you change consciousness, you change the so-called timeline of your life. You may take something that would have required years of struggle, and you may find it dissolves in weeks, not because you forced the world to move faster, but because you stopped insisting on the old sequence. Many insist without realizing it, first pain, then relief. First proof, then faith. First success, then confidence. But the law is reversible. You have already heard this. The feeling can come first, and when it comes first, it becomes the cause. So you can feel relief now, and relief will find its reasons. You can feel chosen now, and life will show you choice. You can feel secure now, and security will form around you. You can feel forgiven now, and the world will mirror forgiveness. And revision is one of the gentlest ways to enter this reversal, because it takes what was once a cause of sorrow and turns it into a cause of peace. Now, if you are listening and you feel yourself growing drowsy, then you are in the perfect condition to understand me. Because the deeper truth is not seized by the sharp, arguing mind. It is received by the quiet mind. So let me speak to you as you are half asleep, for this is where the door opens. Do not wrestle with your past. Do not chase it. Do not run from it. Simply give it another ending. Give it another tone. Give it another feeling. And if you cannot revise a great event yet, revise a small one. If you cannot revise a year, revise an hour. If you cannot revise the whole story, revise one line of it. For one line changed in consciousness can alter the entire chapter. If you had a day where you felt unseen, then tonight see yourself being noticed. Hear a kind word. Feel the warmth of recognition. And let your body accept it as natural. If you had a day where you felt defeated, then tonight feel the quiet satisfaction of victory. Not loud victory, quiet victory. The kind that is so sure it does not need to shout. If you had a day where you feared money, then tonight feel the ease of plenty. Let yourself breathe as though the matter is settled. Let your shoulders drop. Let the mind be done. And if you fall asleep in the middle of your revision, that is not failure. That is success. For the impression that slips with you into sleep is the impression received most deeply. You will find, as you practice this, that your relationship with time changes. You stop feeling hunted by yesterday. You stop feeling anxious about tomorrow. You begin to live from a still point, an inner now, where the state you choose is more powerful than the calendar. And from that still point, life begins to arrange itself, not with the clumsy motion of forcing, but with the quiet precision of law. So tonight, if you do nothing else, do this. Do not let the last act of your day be the acceptance of a wound. Let it be the application of tenderness. Let the last feeling you carry be the feeling you would want tomorrow to mirror. And then sleep. Not sleep as escape, but sleep as the womb of creation. Sleep as the place where the new story is planted. For I tell you, time yields to imagination. The past yields to revision, and the future yields to the state you dare to occupy now. And when you begin to live this way, you will notice that what once felt distant begins to feel near, and what once seemed delayed begins to unfold naturally, as though it had been waiting all along for you to stop arguing with time and simply assume the end. You see, the reason this seems strange to you at first is because you have been trained to bow before the evidence of the senses. You have been taught to say, "It is so because I see it, and it must remain so because it has been so." And therefore you have made time a tyrant, as though it were a living power that can grant or deny, as though it were a judge seated above your life. But time has no creative power. Time is only how the outer man measures motion. And the outer man never creates, he only witnesses. He looks at what has already been impressed upon consciousness and says, "This is reality," not knowing he is looking at an echo. In consciousness, there is no echo. There is only the voice. If I could make you feel one thing tonight, I would make you feel this. The only moment you ever truly possess is now. Not now as a minute on a clock, but now as a state, now as awareness, now as the inner assumption you carry like a fragrance. That inner now is always creating, and it does not consult calendars. When you say, "My future is ruined," you are not describing a future. You are occupying a state now. When you say, "My past has damaged me," you are not describing a past. You are occupying a state now. And because you occupy that state, you perpetuate it. You carry it forward, you give it life. But the moment you withdraw from that state, the moment you stop feeding it, the moment you dare to assume something else, you have not merely changed your mood, you have changed your world's cause. And so you begin to see why I insist that the future is not created. It is selected, it is revealed, it is only the outpicturing of the state you have entered. If a man enters the state of "I am unwanted," life will arrange unwantedness. It will find reasons, faces, situations, and even delays to confirm the state. But if that same man enters the state of "I am cherished," life will not argue. Life will not debate. Life will rearrange. And the rearrangement may look like coincidence to those who do not know the law, but to you it will be the most natural thing in the world, because the shadow must follow the substance. Now let us become very gentle here. because this is where many listeners, especially those who are tired, need tenderness, not force. You may be carrying memories that you revisit without meaning to. Some of you do it like a habit, some of you do it like a punishment, and some of you do it simply because you do not know you have another choice. You believe memory is a record. I tell you, memory is a living act. It is imagination in reverse, and because it is imagination, it can be changed. When you remember, you are not opening a file, you are entering a room, and every time you enter the room, you bring its feeling back into the present. You bring its tone back into your body. You bring its meaning back into your life. So if the room is full of shame, you bring shame. If the room is full of failure, you bring failure. If the room is full of rejection, you bring rejection. And then you wonder why your present feels heavy, why tomorrow feels uncertain. It is uncertain because you are planting yesterday again. Do you see how gently this works? It is not cruel, it is faithful. The law is not condemning you. The law is reflecting you. So the solution is not to fight the past. The solution is to stop entering the old room and to furnish it differently. That is revision. And revision, if done rightly, is one of the most merciful acts a man can perform toward himself. Do not approach revision as though you are correcting a mistake on paper. Approach it as though you are soothing an old wound. Because the subconscious is not persuaded by arguments. It is persuaded by feeling. It is persuaded by the reality you give it in imagination, softly, repeatedly, lovingly. Let me give you a picture. If you have ever watched a child drift into sleep, you know you cannot command him into peace. You cannot say, "Be calm," and expect calmness. You must create the mood. You must lower the light. You must soften the voice. You must tell him a story that changes his feeling. In the same way, you revise by telling your own deeper self a new story until the new feeling becomes natural. And this is why revision is so perfect for the night. Because at night the senses relax, the mind grows quiet, and the inner man is near. At night, you do not have to shout to be heard. A whisper is enough. So take an event, perhaps it is from today, perhaps it is from long ago. But do not take what overwhelms you at first. Take something you can hold. Perhaps you heard a word that stung. Perhaps you felt ignored. Perhaps you walked away thinking, "I should have said this, or I should not have said that." Perhaps you felt small. Now as you lie in bed, do not analyze it. Do not justify it. Do not defend yourself. Do not condemn the other. Analysis keeps you awake. Tenderness puts you to sleep. Instead, simply see the scene as a short, little play, and then, in imagination, let it play differently. Hear the tone soften. Hear the words become kind. Feel the moment end in harmony. And when you have changed it, do not say, "I hope this will help." No. Feel as though it has helped. Feel the relief of it. Feel the quiet satisfaction of it. Feel the softness in the body when something is settled. That feeling is the seal. Now many will ask, "But Neville, how can a revision of a conversation change anything?" The man still said what he said. Beloved, you are still thinking like the outer man. You are thinking that what was spoken is the cause. It is not. The cause is what you accepted as true within yourself, as a result of what was spoken. Two men can hear the same insult. One will laugh and forget it, and it will have no effect. The other will carry it for years, and it will shape his entire life. Why? Because of what each accepted inwardly. So when you revise, you are not changing the mouth of the other. You are changing the acceptance in yourself. You are changing the inner conclusion, and that inner conclusion is what life mirrors. This is why, when you revise a scene, the world begins to reflect a different relationship. People seem to soften. Opportunities seem to appear. The same face that once felt harsh can become friendly, not because you forced it, but because you no longer require harshness to prove your old state. And when you revise consistently, you begin to feel something remarkable. You are no longer afraid of your own history. You stop flinching at memories. You stop tightening when you think of certain places, certain names, certain moments. The past loses its teeth. Because you have removed the poison from it, You have taken away its authority. And when the past loses authority, the future loses delay. For delay is often nothing more than the continuation of an old state. It is you saying, it will take time because I am still the person who has not received. But when you shift identity, when you become inwardly the one who has received, time is no longer a barrier. It becomes a servant. It becomes the natural unfolding of what is already accepted. Now let me go deeper. For those who are half asleep and can feel this rather than think it, there are moments when you cannot figure out your way into freedom, but you can feel your way into it, and revision is feeling. If you want to revise a painful memory, do not try to revise it with cold images. Revise it with warmth. Put warmth into the scene. Put safety into it. Put protection into it. Put love into it. Put the feeling you wish you had felt then. Sometimes you will revise not by changing words, but by changing what you knew in the moment. A man felt rejected by his father. He carries it like a chain. He replays it again and again. He does not even realize he is doing it. But it shapes his confidence, his relationships, his money, his sense of worth. So at night, he revises. He sees the father's face soften. He hears a simple sentence, I am proud of you. Or perhaps, if those words feel too distant at first, he hears something even simpler, more believable to the sleepy mind. I see you. I understand. You're all right. And then he feels the boy inside him relax. That relaxation is not imaginary. That relaxation is a shift of state. And when a state shifts, life shifts. Or take a woman who has lived with the feeling of being overlooked. She walks into rooms and expects to be unseen, and life faithfully reflects her expectation. Men overlook her. Friends forget her. Opportunities pass her by. She thinks it is fate. It is not fate. It is the state. So at night she revises. She sees herself entering a room, and someone turns and smiles, and the smile is genuine. She hears her name spoken with pleasure. She feels welcomed, and she lets herself accept it, not as a wish, but as a truth about who she is. And as that acceptance deepens, the outer world begins to comply. Now do not make revision a strain. You may revise the same scene many nights in a row. That is perfectly natural. You are not trying to fix it once. You are replacing an old groove. And grooves are replaced by repetition, by gentleness, by persistence. Remember, the subconscious is like fertile soil. It does not care whether the seed is from yesterday or from 20 years ago. If you plant it now, it will grow now. So do you see what time truly is? Time is not the creator. Time is the unfolding of what you have accepted. And if you accept something new, time unfolds differently. That is why I tell you the past is not fixed. Not because history books change, but because you change. And the world you live in is not the world of history books, it is the world of your consciousness expressed. Now I want to give you something you can do tonight, very simply, very softly, without effort. When you are ready to sleep, do not carry the day into the bed like a sack of stones. Do not rehearse what went wrong. Do not argue with absent people. Do not count your disappointments as though they were coins. Instead, as your body grows heavy, choose one thing to revise. One, if you cannot find anything big, take something small. A look that bothered you. A sentence you didn't like. A moment you felt unsure. See it again, briefly. Then change it. And when you change it, let it end well. Let it end in peace. Let it end in dignity. Let it end in love. Let it end the way a good scene ends. Settled. Then feel the satisfaction of that ending. That satisfaction is the signal. That satisfaction is the new seed. And now do nothing more. Do not check. Do not question. Do not chase. Drift. If you fall asleep, you have done it perfectly. And tomorrow, when the old memory tries to rise, do not fight it like an enemy. Simply return to the revised version like a friend returning home. You are not forcing yourself to think positive. You are selecting the state you will live from. Now, as you do this, you will begin to notice something extraordinary. You feel as though life is arranging itself without your strain. That is because it is. You have changed the inner arrangement, and the outer arrangement follows. And this is the great surrender of time. Time surrenders when you stop using it as an excuse, when you stop treating it as a wall, when you stop measuring your life by shadows. Because the moment you live from the end is not in the future, it is in you, it is now. So tonight, let the clocks be silent. Let the calendar be silent. Let the old stories be silent. Take the past, and with tenderness, rewrite it. Take the future, and recognize it is not built, it is selected. And take the present and realize it is the only creative moment you will ever need. And if you are sleepy now, if you feel yourself drifting, then you are exactly where you must be. For the drowsy state is the most honest state. The drowsy state does not argue, it receives. So receive this. You are not bound to what has been. You are bound only to what you accept as true now. And because you can accept anew, you can live anew. And then quietly, gently, everything begins to fall into place. And now we come to the point where the mind, if it has listened honestly, begins to soften. It begins to realize it does not have to carry the burden it has been carrying. It begins to suspect, quietly, almost shyly, that life is not a struggle to be endured, but a state to be entered. There is a principle in Scripture that has been so misunderstood, so turned into rule and ritual, that men have missed its tenderness entirely. They made it a day, they made it a command, they made it an obligation, and by turning it into an obligation, they made it heavy. Yet, it was never meant to be heavy. It was meant to be rest. I am speaking of the Sabbath. Now, listen carefully, because I am not speaking of any day upon the calendar. I am not speaking of a religious custom, nor a particular hour when one must behave differently. I am speaking of a state of consciousness. I am speaking of the inner sense of completion, the inner knowing that it is done. For when God finished his work, he rested, not because he was weary, but because the work was complete. He did not rest to make it complete. He rested because it was complete. And that is the Sabbath, as I teach it. The Sabbath is not a reward for effort. It is the consequence of acceptance. When you have truly assumed the wish fulfilled, when you have entered the state and felt it as natural, something happens that cannot be forced. A quietness comes over you. The question how loses its urgency. The question when becomes unimportant. The need to check disappears. You do not strain to believe anymore. You simply are. That is Sabbath. You may have known this state without naming it. You may have experienced it in small matters. You placed a letter in the post, and you did not worry after. You ordered something, and you did not spend the entire day obsessing, because you knew it had been done. You went to bed after making a decision, and the decision settled you, and you slept better, because uncertainty had ended. That settling is Sabbath. Now I ask you, why should you live without it? Why should you keep your desires in a state of restless longing, as though the only way to have a thing is to chase it? The chase is proof you do not have it. The chase is confession that it is outside you, and what you confess, you perpetuate. But Sabbath is the end of confession. Sabbath is the end of chasing. Sabbath is the in of chasing. Sabbath is the in of chasing. It is not convincing the mind with arguments. It is a simple inner consent. It is done. And I tell you, if you can enter that state even for a moment and remain faithful to it, the outer world will rearrange itself around your rest. For the outer world is not moved by your strain. It is moved by your assumption. You do not pull the world into place with effort. You let it fall into place by occupying the end. So let us be very practical, very gentle, and very honest. Many of you have tried to believe in a way that made you tense. You tried to repeat phrases with white knuckles. You tried to force yourself into a mood you did not have. And then you became tired, and the fatigue became evidence to you that you were failing. But you were not failing. You were simply trying to do with effort what can only be done with surrender. Sabbath is surrender. It is not surrender to circumstances. It is surrender to fulfillment. It is the surrender of the one who has finished his labor and sits down in peace. Now, how do you enter it? Not by declaring it with the lips while the heart protests. Not by saying it is done while secretly wondering if it is done. The subconscious is not impressed by the lips. It is impressed by the feeling. The feeling must agree. So you enter Sabbath the same way you have entered everything else, by feeling yourself into the state until it becomes natural. You imagine, you feel, you accept. And then, when acceptance becomes real, the rest comes of its own accord. Let me describe what it feels like, so you may recognize it. It feels like a quiet chest. It feels like a loosening of the face. It feels like the mind no longer hunting for reasons. It feels like you could stop thinking about it, and not because you are giving up, but because you are satisfied. It is the satisfaction of possession. And I tell you, possession is not a thing in the hand. Possession is a state in consciousness. A man may hold money and feel poor. Another may have little and feel rich. What is the difference? The state. So the Sabbath is not a day. It is a condition of the soul. Now you will ask me, Neville, if I enter this rest, will I not become indifferent? Will I not lose my desire? No, you will not lose your desire. You will lose your hunger. And there is a vast difference. Hunger is lack. Hunger is pain. Hunger is the restless gnawing that says, not yet. But fulfillment is gentle. Fulfillment is quiet. Fulfillment is the calm certainty that says, already. You do not lose the desire's beauty. You gain the desire's peace. And that peace is the signal that the seed has taken root. So I say to you, measure your work, not by the number of scenes you imagine, not by the number of words you repeat, but by whether you have reached the Sabbath. Have you reached the point where you can rest? For if you have not reached it, you are still trying to get. And trying to get implies you do not have. But if you have reached it, if you have entered the quiet, settled knowing, then you have done everything that needs to be done. And then the wisest action is no action at all. The wisest action is to leave it alone. Leave the seed in the ground. Now there is a companion to Sabbath that reveals it even more clearly. And that companion is gratitude. But I must be careful here, because men have turned gratitude into another strain. They made it another technique. They said, if I thank enough, I will receive. And so their thank you became bargaining. It became a nervous attempt to purchase a future. That is not gratitude. That is fear, dressed as politeness. True gratitude is never anxious. True gratitude is never begging. True gratitude is the natural fragrance of fulfillment. You do not thank for what you hope will come. You thank for what you know you have. And this is why gratitude is so powerful. Not because it bribes life, but because it reveals your state. A man who is truly grateful is a man who is inwardly convinced. He is not trying to convince. He is convinced. So I tell you, do not force gratitude. Let it arise. How will it arise? By accepting the end so fully that thanks becomes natural. A mother does not force gratitude when she holds her child. Gratitude is there because the joy is there. A man does not force gratitude when he receives good news. Gratitude is the spontaneous response of possession. So too, when you have assumed the wish fulfilled, gratitude rises quietly, without effort. It may not even be spoken. It may be only a soft warmth in the heart. It may be a gentle smile as you lie down. It may be a sigh that feels like relief. That sigh is thanksgiving. And because we are moving toward deep rest now, let me call it what it truly is in this state: silent gratitude. Silent gratitude is not an act of speech. It is a condition. It is the inner posture of one who has received. You may not even say thank you. You may simply feel thank you. You may simply feel that the matter is settled. You may feel the way you feel when something is finally resolved, finally right, finally in its place. And because it is silent, it slips past the arguing mind. The mind loves to argue with words. It loves to pick at phrases. It loves to challenge statements. But it cannot challenge a feeling easily, especially in the drowsy state. It simply absorbs it. So tonight, if you would make this teaching your own, do not aim to think harder. Aim to rest deeper. Rest is not ignorance. Rest is mastery. Rest is the sign that you have accepted, and acceptance is the only creative act. Now let me show you how the Sabbath feels when applied to your desire. Whatever it is, I will not make it mechanical, I will make it human. Suppose you desire freedom, freedom from financial pressure, freedom from fear, freedom from the constant feeling that you are behind. If you are in the state of not having, you will go to bed with a tightness. You will go to bed planning, calculating, regretting. Your mind will run like a machine that will not shut off. Even if you sleep, you will not rest, because you will carry the state into the night. But if you have entered the Sabbath, you go to bed differently. You may still have responsibilities. You may still have duties. The outer world may still look the same for the moment, but inside you, it is complete. Inside you, you have accepted a new identity. You are free. And so you lie down not as one pleading, but as one possessing. You may picture a single scene briefly. Perhaps you see yourself looking at your affairs with ease. Perhaps you hear a friend say, "I'm so happy for you." Perhaps you feel the simple comfort of being safe. And then, having felt it, you let it go, and you rest. That rest is not a delay. It is the seal. And in that sealed state, gratitude arises. Not gratitude to beg, but gratitude to acknowledge. Now some of you will say, "But Neville, I have tried to let it go, and I cannot. My mind returns." Of course it returns. That is the mind's habit. But you do not scold it. You do not fight it. Fighting creates wakefulness. Fighting implies danger. Instead, you simply return to the feeling softly each time, like rocking a child back to sleep. You return, not with effort, but with kindness. And each return deepens the groove. Each return makes the new state more familiar. Each return is the quiet persistence of the inner man who knows what he has accepted. And sooner than you think, the rest comes on its own. You will notice one night that you stop checking. You stop searching for signs. You stop measuring. And you will smile because you will realize you have entered Sabbath. Now let me speak to you about the strange way the world behaves when you truly enter it. When you are not in Sabbath, you try to force life. You try to make doors open by pushing harder. You try to make people change by pressing them. You try to get results by effort. And the results are often slow. Not because you are weak, but because you are working from the wrong end. You are working from effect. But when you enter Sabbath, you stop pushing the door, and then the door opens. Not because the door liked your humility, but because you no longer occupy the state of one who struggles against a closed door. You occupy the state of one to whom doors open naturally, and so doors open. You stop chasing conversations, and conversations come. You stop begging for approval, and approval follows. You stop fearing money, and money moves. You stop rehearsing sickness, and the body begins to echo the state of health. Not always in the manner you predicted, and not always according to the clock you consulted, but always according to the law you have set in motion. The world reflects consciousness. So I say to you tonight, if you want everything to fall into place, do not attempt to arrange the pieces with your hands. Arrange the state with your heart, and then rest. That rest is Sabbath, and the evidence of the Sabbath is gratitude. Now I want to guide you into the feeling of it, because this portion of our journey is meant to carry you downward into sleep, not upward into thought. So as you listen, whether you are sitting or lying down, let your body become heavy. Do not try to do anything with these words. Let the words do what they do when they are received. Feel your shoulders soften. Feel your breath slow. Feel the face relax. Now think of your desire, not as a thing far away, but as a state you could wear. If you desire wealth, do not think of numbers. Think of ease. Think of quiet freedom. Think of the calm confidence of one who is provided for. If you desire love, do not think of chasing a person. Think of the warmth of being cherished. Think of being chosen. Think of the simple naturalness of belonging. If you desire health, do not fight the body. Think of lightness. Think of vigor. Think of the relief of waking well. And now, without strain, Let yourself accept that state as yours, not as a hope, as a present identity. I am. Now do not race to complete the sentence with clever words. Let it be simple. Let it be human. I am safe. I am provided for. Sexiwes. I am loved. I am free. I am all right. And after you say it inwardly, do not repeat it like a chant. Feel it like a fact. Let the body respond. When a fact is accepted, the body relaxes. When a threat is imagined, the body tightens. So let the body be your guide. You are not trying to make the body relax. You are letting it relax because you have accepted something that ends struggle. Now if gratitude comes, let it come quietly. Not a loud gratitude. Not a performance. A silent gratitude. A gentle inner thank you that feels more like a smile than a word. And if no gratitude comes yet, do not force it. Simply remain in the state until gratitude becomes natural. Because gratitude is not an obligation. It is a sign. When you are truly in the Sabbath, you will find yourself grateful without trying. You will not be grateful for what is coming. You will be grateful because, inwardly, it is already yours. And this is what makes the Sabbath so restful. The mind no longer has to negotiate. It no longer has to bargain with the future. It no longer has to run ahead and calculate. It rests. And because it rests, life moves. Now I want to speak of one more subtlety that will help you tremendously, especially at night. There is a difference between thinking of your desire and resting in your desire. Thinking keeps you awake. Resting puts you to sleep. Thinking asks questions. Resting answers them. Thinking says, how will it happen? Resting says, it is done. Thinking is effort. Resting is acceptance. So if you find yourself lying in bed working, at this, stop working. Do less. Make it smaller. Choose one simple implication of fulfillment and settle into it. Perhaps you are holding a letter that implies success. Perhaps you are hearing a voice that implies congratulations. Perhaps you are feeling the relief of bills paid. Perhaps you are simply feeling the peace of being secure. And then let that be enough. Because the Sabbath is always simple. It is not complicated. Completion is always simple. When a thing is finished, it is finished. There is no need to add to it. Now there are those who fear rest, because they have lived by strain for so long that strain has become familiar. They think, if I do not worry, I am irresponsible. They think, if I am not anxious, I will miss something. They think, if I rest, I will lose control. But you have never had control through worry. You have only had exhaustion. True control is the ability to enter a state and remain faithful to it. True control is inner government, and inner government expresses itself as peace. So tonight, give yourself permission to rest, not permission to neglect life, but permission to stop fighting shadows. For shadows do not need to be fought, they need to be replaced. When you change the light, the shadow changes. And so, change the light. Change the inner assumption. Enter Sabbath. Let gratitude arise like perfume. And as you drift, you will find yourself sinking deeper than sleep. You will sink into that quiet inner chamber, where creation is effortless, where the seed is planted without resistance, where the mind is no longer an enemy, but a doorway. And in that doorway, the simplest feeling, accepted, becomes a command. So I leave you now in the mood of the Sabbath, not with strain, not with pressure, but with a quiet certainty. It is done. There is nothing you must force tonight. There is nothing you must chase tonight. There is nothing you must prove tonight. Assume, feel, accept, and then rest. Let the gratitude be silent. Let it be a warmth. Let it be a sigh. Let it be the gentle inner smile of one who already has. And as you fall asleep, do not worry about tomorrow arranging itself. Tomorrow is not arranged by your worry. Tomorrow is arranged by your state. So sleep in the state. Sleep in the completion. Sleep in the Sabbath. And you will awaken soon enough to find that everything has been falling into place while you were resting. Not because you pleaded with life, but because you consented to fulfillment. And now, having spoken of the Sabbath, I must tell you what follows it, because something always follows it, not as a reward, not as a surprise, but as the natural consequence of an inner act that has been completed. When you truly rest in the end, the world begins to rearrange itself. And it does so quietly at first, almost as though it does not wish to disturb you. It is like furniture being moved in the next room while you sit still in your chair. You may not see it at once, but you feel a difference in the atmosphere. The tension is gone, the heaviness lifts, the sense of being trapped begins to dissolve. I want you to understand this clearly. The rearrangement is not something you force. It is not something you coax or plead for or demand. It is not produced by cleverness. It is not obtained by manipulation. It is produced by law. When consciousness occupies a state, life must express it. You may have spent years trying to change people. You may have tried to speak differently, behave differently, explain yourself better, argue your position, prove your worth, earn the response you wanted. But all the while, you were trying to change the shadow. And the shadow cannot be changed by wrestling with it. When you change within, when you shift the state you occupy, people do not change because you persuaded them. They change because they must reflect the new concept you hold of yourself and of them. The world is yourself pushed out. And therefore, as you change yourself, the world cannot remain the same. It will astonish you, if you have not yet seen it, how naturally it happens. One who was cold becomes warm. One who was distant becomes close. One who resisted becomes helpful. Not because they suddenly acquired new morals, not because they attended some lecture, not because they decided to behave better, but because you are no longer in the state that called forth their former expression. You will say, "But Neville, that sounds like magic." And I will answer you as I have answered so many. It is not magic, it is law. Magic suggests caprice. Law suggests certainty. Magic suggests a special power given to one and withheld from another. Law is impartial. It works for anyone who applies it. The reason it appears miraculous is because men have lived so long believing in the external as cause that when the external changes without external effort, they are bewildered. They cannot imagine that a change of state could produce a change of circumstance. Yet you have already proven this, even if you do not realize it. You have proven it every time you went into a mood and saw the world reflected. When you are in a mood of suspicion, you interpret everything suspiciously. When you are in a mood of love, you interpret everything lovingly, and the world seems to confirm your interpretation, as though it changed. But what changed first was you. That is law at a small level. Now you will apply it at a larger level, deliberately. So what happens after Sabbath? The reordering. You will notice perhaps that you receive a letter you did not expect. A message arrives. A conversation opens itself. A long-standing obstacle dissolves. A person who previously ignored you now seeks you. A chance meeting occurs. An opportunity presents itself with such naturalness that it seems it was always meant to happen. And it was. It was always contained within the state. It did not appear out of nothing. It was always there as a possibility. But it could not appear to you, while you remained in a state that did not permit it. Let me put it simply. The world you experience is the world that corresponds to the state you occupy. If you occupy poverty as a state, you will move through a world that proves poverty. If you occupy abundance as a state, you will move through a world that proves abundance. If you occupy rejection, you will find evidence everywhere. If you occupy being chosen, you will meet the world that confirms it. So after Sabbath, you do not go looking for changes. You do not watch life like a hawk, searching for signs, questioning every delay, interrogating every moment. That would be to leave Sabbath. That would be to return to strain. And strain is the confession of lack. Instead, you remain in the quiet knowing. You live from it. You walk in it. You sleep in it. And then, without effort, you begin to notice that life is cooperating. It is not that the world suddenly becomes kind. It is that you are no longer in the state that called forth the unkindness. It is not that people suddenly become generous. It is that you are no longer in the state that required them to mirror your inner poverty. It is not that obstacles vanish as a favor to you. It is that you are no longer occupying the state that necessitated them. This is why I tell you, and I say it plainly, you need do nothing after the assumption is made and accepted. You do nothing in the sense that you do not attempt to help it, you do not attempt to make it happen. You do not attempt to figure it out. You do not attempt to move the pieces. You do not attempt to convince the world. You simply remain faithful to the state you have entered. Now do not misunderstand me. You will still move, you will still act, you will still speak. You will still make choices. But these actions will not be frantic. They will not be desperate. They will not be rooted in fear. They will be the natural outflow of the state. A man who is secure does not act like a man who is trying to become secure. He acts like one who already is. And therefore his actions are quiet, simple, appropriate. They are not strained. They are not theatrical. They are not performed to get something. They are expressions of being. So you may find yourself doing something you would never have thought to do before. You may find yourself taking a call, writing a letter, walking into a place, speaking with confidence, or accepting an invitation. And you will realize, if you are honest, that this action did not come from fear. It came from ease. It came from the state. This is what I call inspired movement. Not because some external voice shouted at you, but because the inner man, having accepted a new identity, naturally moves in ways that correspond to it. And then you will look back and say, it was effortless. It was effortless because you were not trying to force results. You were living from a result already accepted. You see, the effort that exhausts men is the effort of trying to become. But once you are, there is no need to become. There is only expression. Now, if you are listening to me, and you have felt something shift inside you, even slightly, then you have already begun. The reordering begins the moment you change state. It does not begin when you see something. It begins when you are something. And because it is law, it moves with inevitability. Sometimes the world changes quickly. Sometimes it changes in ways that unfold in time. But it always moves. It always rearranges. It cannot remain fixed against the new state, for the external world is not the power, it is the product. So I say again, and I want you to feel this, not merely hear it. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is not a trick. This is not a modern invention. This is the oldest truth. It is written in scripture, veiled in story, hidden in plain sight. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Call things that are not seen as though they were, and they become. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, not outwardly still merely, but inwardly still. Still from chasing, still from pleading, still from doubting, still from trying to force the harvest. The seed has been planted. Let it grow. Now I want to speak to you with a tenderness, because not all will receive what you are receiving now. Not all will hear these words as law. Many will hear them as poetry, as comfort, as a soothing idea, and they will go back to their old habits. The moment the voice ends, they will return to fear because fear is familiar. They will return to effort because effort feels like control. They will return to seeking because seeking distracts them from the discomfort of changing within, and I do not condemn them. They simply are not ready. They prefer the old story. They prefer the world where they can blame circumstance. They prefer the world where they can say, it is not my fault. They prefer the world where their power is hidden from them, because to admit power is to admit responsibility. So not all will rest here. Not all will accept the Sabbath. Not all will cease the frantic motion. Not all will dare to assume. But you, if you are still listening, you are here. You did not come by accident. You did not remain by accident. There is something in you that recognizes itself. There is something in you that, even if your mind has argued, has still leaned in. There is something in you that has felt the possibility of peace, not as a dream, but as a truth. And that is why you must not treat this as entertainment. You must treat it as revelation. I am not speaking to you as a performer. I am speaking to you as one who has tested a law and proven it. I have seen it work in my own life and in the lives of countless others. I have watched men and women step out of despair into fulfillment, not by changing the world first, but by changing the state they occupy. So if you are here, do not let this slip away as a passing comfort. Let it become your practice. Let it become your secret. Let it become your inner way of life. For the most astonishing thing is this: once you truly rest, the world does the work, and you will look at your life and wonder how it changed so much without strain. You will wonder how things arranged themselves, how people softened, how doors opened, how obstacles dissolved, how the very texture of your days became different, and you will be tempted to attribute it to chance. Do not. It was law. It was your assumption made flesh. It was the rearrangement that must follow when you enter the end, and remain there. So I tell you now, with all the firmness I can give, and with all the gentleness you need, you do not have to do anything more. You have only to remain. Remain faithful to what you have accepted. Remain loyal to the feeling of it is done. Remain in the quiet naturalness of being the one you chose to be. And then, as surely as morning follows night, you will watch as everything begins to fall into place. Not because the world is kind, but because the world is obedient. Not to your effort, to your state. Of course, say to a state. And if tonight you fall asleep in that state, if you drift into unconsciousness wearing the feeling of completion like a garment, you will wake with a subtle difference. You may not have a sign in your hand. You may not have the full manifestation before your eyes, but you will have something far more important. You will have the inner knowing. And from that knowing, life cannot help but conform. So rest again, now in the simplicity of it. Let the mind stop searching. Let the heart settle. Let the feeling of completion become your home. You are not waiting for life to line up. Life is lining up because you have changed where you stand. And that is enough. You have listened long enough to principles, to explanations, to the turning of cause and effect until the mind begins to bow. And now we come to the point where words are no longer meant to teach you, but to carry you. For there is a difference between understanding a thing and entering it. And tonight, I do not want you merely to understand. I want you to slip into the state where understanding becomes experience, and experience becomes fact. So I will not ask you to strain, or to wrestle with thought, or to force an image into the mind like a man trying to hold water in his hands. No, I ask you only to yield, to let the body grow quiet, to let the senses soften, to let the day fall away like a coat you no longer need. Because the most creative moment in your entire day is not when you are pushing, speaking, planning, or laboring. It is the moment you are drifting, when you are neither fully awake nor fully asleep, when you are just receptive enough to accept a new life as natural. Now, if you are lying down, let the body be supported. Let the bed do its work. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw loosen. Let the tongue rest. If your eyes are open, allow them to close gently, not with effort, but as though they were closing on their own, as though sleep were already near, and you simply agree with it. Feel the weight of the body, not as a problem, not as something to manage, but as a blessing. You are being held. You do not have to hold yourself. The hands can rest, open, easy. The legs can lie where they are, without needing to be adjusted again and again. And if there is a little restlessness, do not fight it. Let it be. Even the waves calm themselves when you stop striking the water. Now become aware of your breathing, not to control it, but to notice it. The breath comes in, and the breath goes out, and you do nothing to make it happen. Isn't that already a sermon? Life is sustaining you without your permission, without your struggle, without your management. And if life can breathe you, it can also arrange you. It can move you. It can lead you across the bridge of incidents without your strain. With every exhale, allow the day to leave you. Not tomorrow, not later. Now, let the conversations fade. Let the tasks become distant. Let the concerns lose their urgency. They were loud because you kept listening. And tonight, you stop listening. Now I want you to feel something very simple. I want you to feel the difference between trying to make it happen and letting it be done. The first is tight. The second is quiet. The first is anxious. The second is certain. And certainty is a kind of rest. It is Sabbath. So tonight we enter the feeling of alignment, not the idea of it, the feeling of it. The inward relief that comes when you realize you are no longer pushing life uphill. You are no longer wrestling with the outer world. You are no longer pleading with circumstances like a beggar at a closed gate. You are simply choosing the state and letting the world mirror it. Now listen carefully. There is a night, perhaps it is this night, when everything begins to arrange itself. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped interfering with it. You stopped digging up the seed. You stopped demanding proof before belief. You stopped measuring the day by appearances. You stopped asking how, and you started living from it is. So let us enter that night now, in your mind's eye without strain. Allow a single gentle implication to form. Do not build a whole drama. Do not try to see 1,000 details. Choose one small moment that would be true if your life were already aligning, if the wheels had already begun to turn, if the pieces had already started falling into place in your favor. Perhaps you are sitting somewhere ordinary, at a table in a familiar room, and you feel a quiet change in the atmosphere. Not excitement like a shock, but relief like a dawn. Something is different. You cannot yet name every reason, but you know it. You feel it. The world is shifting, not against you, for you. Now hear a voice. Maybe it is a friend. Maybe it is a loved one. Maybe it is simply someone speaking to you kindly. And the words are simple. They are not dramatic. They are not theatrical. They are natural. And because they are natural, they are powerful. They say, softly, with certainty, it's happening. Or perhaps they say, everything's falling into place. Or maybe they laugh a little, as people do when good news becomes real. And they say, I knew it would work out for you. Let those words land. Do not analyze them. Do not question them. Feel what you would feel if you heard them and knew they were true. And what would that be? It would be a loosening, a release in the chest, a quiet warmth in the body, a sense of being carried, a feeling that you no longer have to fight. Now let that feeling spread. You do not push it, you allow it. Like warmth spreading through cold hands, like a soft light filling a room. You simply accept, yes, this is that night. This is the night everything starts aligning. Now in this imaginal moment, something small happens that implies a new order. Perhaps you glance at an envelope in your hand. Something official, something confirming. You do not need to read every line. You only see the conclusion, the sense of it, the essence of it. The words, perhaps, approved, or confirmed, or congratulations, or paid in full, or simply your name written with respect. Or perhaps you are holding a telephone receiver to your ear, and you hear a voice on the other end, speaking in a tone that changes your entire posture. They are not uncertain. They are not hesitant. They are telling you the thing you had been waiting for has moved. It has turned. It has opened. And as you hear it, notice what happens to you. Not what happens to the world, what happens to you. Your shoulders drop. Your face softens. You breathe as though you have been allowed to live again. That is the sign. That is the evidence. Because the subconscious responds to you, not to the world. Now I want you to become even more intimate with it. Move from watching yourself to being yourself. See through your own eyes. Hear through your own ears. Feel with your own hands. If there is an object in your imaginal scene, a letter, a paper, a set of keys, a handshake, a cup in your hand, feel it. Feel its texture. Feel its weight. Let the scene be short, but let it be sensory. And as you feel it, let the natural reaction come. Maybe you whisper, almost without choosing to, thank you. Not as a technique, as a reflex. The reflex of one who has received. Now let the scene repeat, gently, not forced, like a lullaby, like the tide. Again you hear the simple words, everything is falling into place. Again you feel the relief. Again you feel the quiet confidence that something unseen has already moved. And I tell you that unseen movement is the only movement that matters. For what you call the outer world is delayed. It is always late. It is the echo. But consciousness is immediate. Consciousness is now. And tonight you are selecting the now. Now, as you remain in this drowsy borderland, I want you to release one habit that has exhausted you, the habit of checking. Checking the world, checking the clock, checking the signs, checking the faces of others, checking the bank, the messages, the outcomes. All of it is the same habit, doubt wearing different clothes. So tonight, we do not check. Tonight, we accept. Tonight, we rest. If the mind tries to ask, but how will it happen? Let it ask. Then answer it with feeling, not argument. The feeling says, it is done. The feeling says, it is already arranged. The feeling says, I do not need to see the bridge before I walk it. Now let me tell you something that will soothe you if you truly hear it. The bridge of incidence is not built by your effort. It is built by the state you occupy. When you occupy the state of it is aligning. Life rearranges itself to justify that state. People speak differently. Opportunities appear as though they were always there. Doors open without announcing themselves. And you, in your waking mind, will call it coincidence. But you will know, quietly, you planted it. So in this imaginal moment, let the how be absent. Let it be none of your concern. Feel the end. Feel the order. Feel the alignment. Feel the naturalness of it. It feels almost ordinary, doesn't it? Not like a miracle forced from the sky, but like the world finally returning to its proper place, reflecting the calm authority within you. Now I want you to think of one area of your life that has felt tangled. Do not name it with fear. Do not rehearse the problem. Just touch it lightly, as you would touch a knot you no longer respect. And now, instead of imagining struggle there, imagine ease. Imagine that same area already settled, already resolved, already moving smoothly. If it is work, imagine yourself finishing a day with a quiet satisfaction, not because you fought, but because things flowed. You hear a superior speak to you with appreciation. You sense respect. You sense recognition. And you feel within yourself, of course, not pride, naturalness, if it is love. Imagine a moment of tenderness, so simple it cannot be doubted. A look, a touch, a message spoken in warmth, and you feel safe. You feel chosen. You feel at home in the relationship you once feared would never become stable. And again you feel, of course, if it is health, imagine waking with lightness in the body, not drama, just lightness. The quiet joy of moving freely. The peace of not thinking about it. And you feel gratitude without forcing it. If it is money, do not imagine piles of gold like a fairy tale. Imagine relief. Imagine bills paid with ease. Imagine opening a statement and feeling no sting, no dread, only calm. Calm is wealth. The calm is the proof. Now let all of those be included in one simple sensation. The sensation that your life is coming together, that everything is being arranged, that what looked scattered is now being gathered. And as you feel that, let the body respond. Let the breathing soften. Let the eyelids become heavy. Let the face grow peaceful. The body will always tell you when you have entered the state. The body becomes the witness. The body becomes the seal. Now if you wish, you may use a simple phrase, not chanted like a ritual, not forced, just breathed like a truth that comforts you. You might say inwardly, isn't it wonderful? And feel the wonder as a quiet certainty, not as excitement. Or you might say, it is done, and feel the finality of it. Or you might say, everything is falling into place, and let those words be like warm water poured over the mind until it stops resisting. Now we do one more thing very gently. We let tonight revise the day, because many go to sleep carrying the day's disorder into the womb of night, and then they wonder why tomorrow resembles yesterday. So we will not do that. Think back over the day, only lightly, and find any moment that felt wrong, unfinished, unpleasant, or heavy. Do not blame yourself. Do not condemn anyone, simply take it as clay. Now revise it. See it the way it should have been. Hear the words you would have liked to hear. Speak the words you wish you had spoken. Feel the peace that would have been there. And as you revise it, notice something: the body relaxes. Because you have removed the sting, you have removed the seed of tomorrow's repetition. Now the day is complete, not because it was perfect, but because you have made it right in consciousness. And what is made right in consciousness must become right in experience. So now, as you rest here, let the final impression of the night be this: your life is aligning, not as a hope, not as a wish, as a present fact within you. Feel it like a certainty in the chest. Feel it like a quiet smile that comes for no outer reason. Feel it like a deep sigh that says, at last, and now you do nothing. Nothing more. You do not push. You do not plan. You do not chase. You do not strain. You simply fall asleep in the state of alignment, because sleep is the great persuader. Sleep takes the last feeling and presses it into the deeper mind. And the deeper mind, faithful and unquestioning, must objectify it. So if you are drifting, drift. If thoughts come, let them pass. Return again and again to the simple feeling. Everything is falling into place. Return to the sound of that voice congratulating you. Return to the sense of relief, of order, of inevitability. And as you cross that threshold, half awake, half asleep, let your final inner act be gratitude, that is quiet, almost wordless. Not gratitude because you are trying to get something. Gratitude because it is already arranged in the only place it must be arranged, first, within you. And then, let go. Let go of the day. Let go of the struggle. Let go of the question. Let go of the need to see. You have selected the state. You have entered the night where everything starts aligning. Now sleep and allow the world to catch up. Now we continue, gently, as though we never left that borderland between waking and sleep. For if the first was the night everything begins to align, this is the night you consent to the alignment so completely that you stop touching it with anxious hands. You stop turning it over. You stop asking for proof. You allow it to happen in the same way you allow sleep itself to happen, by yielding. So once more, let the body be quiet. Let it be heavy. Let it be comfortable. If you are lying down, feel how the weight of you is being received. You do not have to hold your head up. You do not have to keep your shoulders tense. You do not have to maintain any expression upon the face. Let it all fall away, as though you were laying down a burden you have carried for years, and suddenly realized you never needed to carry. Allow your breathing to be natural. The breath comes, and it goes. The mind may still wander a little, as a child wanders before it falls asleep. Do not scold it. Do not wrestle it. Simply bring it back with tenderness, again and again, to a single feeling. And the feeling is this: everything falls into place while you sleep. Not because you force the world, not because you chase the world, not because you argue with the world, but because you have entered the state where it is already arranged, and the world is only the echo of your state. Now, to make this real, we do not build a complicated scene. The subconscious mind does not need complexity. It needs conviction. It needs the tone of reality, the sense of naturalness, the quiet acceptance of a thing as done. So I ask you to imagine one simple moment that would be true tomorrow. One gentle moment. If during your sleep tonight everything truly fell into place, perhaps you awaken in the morning not with dread, not with the weight of unfinished business, but with an unusual peace. You open your eyes and you realize the mind is quiet, and you do not yet know what has changed in the outer world, but you know something has shifted within you. The sense of struggle is gone. The sense of being chased by time is gone. The sense of being behind is gone. You lie there, and you feel, with a calm certainty, it is handled. Not it will be handled, but it is handled. Now stay with that feeling. Let it be more important than any detail. Let it be the very atmosphere you are breathing. The feeling of being taken care of. The feeling of being supported by life itself. the feeling that the unseen hands of your own deeper consciousness have already been at work while you slept. Now in imagination, let a small confirmation appear, not a spectacle, not a miracle shouted from rooftops, but a simple confirmation, the kind that feels so natural it almost makes you smile. Perhaps you see a letter on the table that was not there before, and you pick it up. You do not need to read every word. You only need the implication. It is good news. It is resolution. It is acceptance. It is approval. It is an answer. Or perhaps you hear the telephone ring in the next room, and you know before you even lift the receiver that it is the call you have been waiting for. Not from strain, but from certainty. You lift it, and you hear a voice speaking with ease, as though the matter has already been decided, as though there is no resistance in the world. And as you listen, your body responds. Your chest loosens, your stomach unclenches, your breathing becomes deeper, and you say, perhaps you do not say it aloud. Perhaps it is only within you. Of course it would be so. Now the important part is not the letter, not the call, not the outward token. The important part is the inward reaction, for your reaction reveals your state, and your state is the cause. So let the reaction be pure. Let it be quiet relief. Let it be a sense of inevitability. Let it be that calm joy that comes when you are no longer trying to persuade life to be kind, because you have accepted yourself as the operant power. Now, as you drift, I want you to feel a strange but beautiful truth. When you sleep, you do not stop creating. You do not cease being the I am. You simply withdraw from the outer senses and enter a deeper chamber of yourself, where impressions sink in without resistance. So the night is not empty. The night is not idle. The night is a workshop, and the craftsman is your own wonderful human imagination. While you sleep, the seed you planted in feeling begins to take root. While you sleep, the bridge of incidents begins to form. While you sleep, people are moved, circumstances are rearranged, opportunities are prepared, not by a distant power outside of you, but by the lawfulness of consciousness itself. And here is what will comfort you. You do not have to watch it happen. Most people cannot allow the seed to grow because they keep digging it up with worry. They keep exposing it to the harsh light of doubt. They keep asking, is it working? Is it here yet? Is it real? And in doing so, they live in the state of not having. But tonight, you refuse that habit. Tonight you allow sleep to do what sleep does best, to impress the deeper mind with a single reality, and then to let it harden into fact. So now feel yourself sinking. Feel the bed beneath you, steady and quiet. Feel the weight of your legs. Feel the softness of your hands. Feel the slow, gentle heaviness of the eyelids. And as the body grows heavier, let the mind become simpler. One thought only. And even that thought is not sharp. It is like a whisper. Everything falls into place while I sleep. Now you may notice the mind trying to argue. It may offer you reminders. It may bring up old disappointments. It may show you pictures of yesterday's failures. If it does, do not fight. Do not debate. Do not wrestle the serpent. Simply return to the state. You might say inwardly, with great gentleness, that was then. And then you return, everything falls into place while I sleep. You might feel a worry rise and try to take your attention hostage, and you do not push it away harshly. You simply allow it to pass through you, like a cloud passing through the sky, and you return, everything falls into place while I sleep. This is the discipline, not strain, not force, a soft returning, again and again, like a lullaby. Now let me give you an imaginal act that is so simple, so soothing, that the mind will stop resisting. Imagine you are placing a small object into a drawer and closing it gently. It might be a folded paper, a symbolic problem. It might be a key. It might be nothing specific at all. But as you close the drawer, you feel that you have set the matter aside, not because you have given up, but because it is already done. You feel the finality of that closing, the quiet completion of it, and then you turn away. You do not stand there and reopen the drawer to check. You do not test it. You do not question it. You simply walk away, because in your consciousness, It is finished. Now feel the relief of finishing. There is a sweetness in completion. There is peace in finality. There is rest in it is done, and that rest is Sabbath. Now I want you to imagine one more simple thing, so ordinary it could happen to anyone. Yet if it happened, it would imply that your life has changed. Imagine yourself meeting someone tomorrow, perhaps in a corridor, perhaps at a doorway, perhaps in a shop, and they look at you with a softness that surprises you. They speak to you as though you are someone favored, someone respected, someone whose life is going well. They say something like, "You look well," or "I'm so glad for you," or "Things are turning out beautifully, aren't they?" And you smile. Not because you are trying to be positive, but because it feels true. And as you smile, you feel something deeper than the words. You feel the world reflecting you in a new way. You feel the mirror changing because you have changed the face you present within. Now take that feeling and let it become your blanket. Let it cover you. You do not need to force 100 scenes. One is enough. The feeling is enough. So now, as you drift nearer to sleep, I ask you to do the most powerful thing you can do, to accept your desire as a present fact, not a hope, not a plan, not a struggle, a fact. And if the mind says, "But I do not see it," you answer, "I do not need to see it. I am selecting it." You do not create it by labor, you create it by assumption. And assumption, persisted in, hardens into fact. Now in this drowsy state, I want you to feel your future as memory. Not as fantasy, as memory. Feel as though tomorrow has already proven you right. Feel as though the next days have already unfolded in your favor. Feel as though you are remembering a life where things fell into place, and you are simply returning to it. There is a quiet authority in that. The subconscious loves that tone. Now, let the breath slow. If your attention drifts, that is good. If you begin to lose the edges of your body, that is good. If the words become softer and the mind begins to float, that is good. Because now we are entering the very moment where the last impression becomes the command. So choose the impression carefully and keep it gentle. Everything falls into place while I sleep. Let the phrase be like a tide that returns and returns and returns. And as it returns, feel the world rearranging itself, not with violence, not with drama, but with order, like a room being tidied quietly while you rest, like a table being set while you are in another chamber, like a path being cleared ahead of you while you are not looking. You do not need to supervise the rearrangement. You do not need to manage the bridge. You only need to remain in the state that implies the bridge has already been crossed. Now, if you like, add one more gentle feeling: gratitude. Not gratitude because you are begging. Gratitude, because you have received. It is a quiet gratitude, a silent gratitude, a gratitude that does not speak much, because it does not need to persuade. It is the gratitude of one who knows. And if you cannot find words for it, you can simply sigh and let that sigh be the prayer. Now the night takes you. Now you drift. And as you drift, the deep mind accepts the feeling as truth. And as it accepts it as truth, life must conform. So sleep now in the assumption that everything is already arranging itself. Sleep now in the certainty that it is done. Sleep now and let the world, being only yourself pushed out, show you tomorrow what you accepted tonight. Everything falls into place while you sleep, and you do nothing, nothing more. Come closer to the edge of sleep again, and do not be surprised if it feels familiar. For the state we enter tonight is not new. It is the most natural thing in the world. You have entered it 1,000 times without knowing what you were doing. And because you did not know, you allowed it to carry into your tomorrow whatever you had been feeling throughout the day. Tonight we do it knowingly. Tonight you give the night a different seed, so be still now. Let the room be exactly as it is. Let the sounds, if there are sounds, be part of the softness. Let the body find the position it prefers, and once it is found, you need not improve it. The body knows how to rest. It has been doing so since you were a child. Trust it. Allow the breath to slow, not by force, but by permission. If the chest rises, let it rise. If it falls, let it fall. And with each breath, feel the ordinary sense of effort begin to slip away, as though the day is loosening its grip upon you. Now, I am going to speak to you about something simple. And because it is simple, it is often missed. Your life does not rearrange itself by your struggle. It rearranges itself by your state. And the moment your state changes, the rearrangement begins quietly, invisibly, without announcement. So tonight is not the night you make it happen. Tonight is the night you stop preventing it. Tonight is the night everything starts aligning. Do you feel how different that is from hope? Hope is strained. Hope is waiting. Hope is a man standing at the window, staring into the darkness, asking whether dawn will come. But alignment is calm. Alignment is inevitability. Alignment is the certainty that dawn is already on its way, even while the sky is still black. Now I want you to imagine something very gentle. Not a big victory, not a dramatic change, only the first unmistakable sign that alignment has begun. Imagine you are walking tomorrow through an ordinary moment. Perhaps you are washing your hands, or putting on your coat, or standing by a door, and suddenly you notice a feeling you have not felt in a long time. Ease. Not excitement, not adrenaline. Ease. You realize something is different, and you cannot explain it with words. It is not yet an outer event. It is an inner shift, but you know it matters, because everything begins inside. Now stay with that moment. Feel it. Let it be real. Let it be yours. You are not forcing yourself to feel calm. You are discovering that calm has arrived. You are not pushing worry away. You are noticing that worry is losing its authority. You are not trying to control life. You are realizing you do not have to. Now in imagination, let one small thing happen that would only happen if your life were beginning to align. Perhaps you receive a simple message written on paper, perhaps a note, perhaps a letter, something that brings relief. You do not have to see every word, only the meaning. It settles something. It confirms something. It opens a door that has felt closed. Or perhaps you have a conversation, brief, ordinary, and a person speaks differently to you. They are warmer. They are clearer. They offer what they once withheld. They say yes where they once said maybe. They show you, without knowing it, that the world has shifted. And you receive it naturally. Not with shock, not with disbelief, but with that quiet feeling that says, of course, this is what happens when things align. Now listen carefully, because this is the key. The subconscious mind is not persuaded by your words. It is persuaded by your acceptance. It is persuaded by the feeling that what you want is not far away, but already moving into place. So we do not imagine strain. We do not imagine waiting. We do not imagine the long road. We imagine the first click of the lock turning. We imagine the first knot loosening. We imagine the first beam of light entering the room, and we let that be enough. Now allow your body to become heavier. Feel the weight of your legs sinking. Feel the shoulders dropping. Feel the jaw soften. Let the forehead smooth itself. The face has carried too many expressions. Give it permission to become neutral, as though you have nothing to defend. Now as the body quiets, the mind becomes more receptive. It becomes like soil at night, dark, deep, ready. And we plant one sentence, not as a chant, but as a truth. Tonight, everything starts aligning. Say it inwardly, once, slowly. Tonight, everything starts aligning. And when you say it, do not try to believe it. Feel what it would be like if it were already true. That is the difference between words and power. Now perhaps you have been carrying several burdens. Perhaps there are many areas of life you want to see change. Do not gather them all up now. Do not bring them to the bed with you like luggage. Instead, imagine that your life is a table covered with scattered pieces, papers, tools, unfinished things, and you do not need to organize them with anxious hands. You only need to imagine that an unseen order is beginning. So in your mind, see a hand, your own hand, moving across that table, not in haste, but with calm authority. You slide one thing into place, then another. not because you are forcing the world, but because you are accepting the state of order. And as you do it, feel something. The relief of order. Order is a feeling. Alignment is a feeling. When you feel order within, the world becomes ordered without. Now I want you to feel this. There are already people who will play their part in your alignment. They are already alive. They already exist. Some of them you know, some of them you do not. But your assumption calls them not by effort, but by law. So imagine that tomorrow you meet someone, or you speak to someone, and the meeting feels unusually easy. The words come naturally. There is no tension. There is no confusion. And afterwards you think, that was part of it. That was part of the alignment. Or imagine you decide, without strain, to do one small thing, one little act, and it becomes the doorway to something larger. Not because you planned it, but because the bridge is forming. And notice how it feels effortless. Not lazy, effortless. Effortless is the signature of alignment. Now if the mind begins to bring up fear, fear that it will not happen, fear that you have waited too long, do not argue. Just return to the tone of inevitability. Say inwardly, as though you are speaking to a child who is frightened in the dark, it has already begun. And then you return to the simple truth. Tonight, everything starts aligning. Now let your imagination give you one more gentle scene. Very short, very quiet. Imagine waking in the morning and reaching for something, perhaps a glass of water, perhaps the edge of the blanket, and in that movement you notice you are not rushing, you are not bracing yourself, you are not preparing for disappointment, you are calm, and you think something is working, and you do not need to know how it is working. You only need to know that it is. Now let the feeling deepen. Alignment is like a river finding its course. It does not argue with stones, it moves around them. It does not fight the earth, it shapes it. It does not announce itself, it simply flows. So tonight you become the river. You do not push, you do not force, you flow. And because you flow, the outer world reshapes itself. Now if you can, let gratitude arise. But not loud gratitude, not performed gratitude. Quiet gratitude. The gratitude of one who senses that something has turned. You might simply whisper inwardly, thank you. Not because you are begging, because you are receiving. Now we come to the most important part of this night. The moment where you stop working, stop trying to fix yourself. Stop trying to fix the world. Stop trying to calculate the path. Stop trying to control the bridge. And instead, you rest in the state that implies the bridge is already being built. This is not passivity. This is power. This is the Sabbath beginning. So let sleep come. Let it come as a friend. Let it come as the faithful servant of your assumption. And as you drift, allow the last impression to be simple, gentle, and sure. Tonight, everything starts aligning. Let it be the final thought. And more than a thought, let it be the final feeling. And then, do nothing. Sleep. For while you sleep, the rearrangement begins. Quietly, naturally, lawfully. And tomorrow you will notice the first signs, not because you hunted for them, but because they will be there, as plainly as morning light. Tonight, everything starts aligning. Now we move into something even simpler. And because it is simpler, the mind will try to complicate it. It will say, surely I must do something. Surely I must push. Surely I must force a result. And I tell you, that very impulse is the old life trying to keep its place. So tonight, you will not wrestle life. You will not negotiate with it. You will not chase it down the road like a man running after a carriage that was never meant to be pursued. Tonight, you will do nothing. And you will let life rearrange itself. Let your body settle first. Not as a technique, but as a surrender. If your hands are tight, loosen them. If your shoulders are lifted, let them drop. If the brow is tense, allow it to smooth. And if you feel you must get it right, let that go as well. There is nothing to get right. There is only a state to enter. The breath becomes slower when you stop insisting on the next moment. So stop insisting. Let the breath find its own rhythm. Let it be natural the way it is when you are safe, because in truth, you are safe. Now I want you to feel the difference between effort and power. Effort is anxious. Effort is noisy. Effort is the mind rehearsing the same problem again and again, believing that repetition is control. But power is quiet. Power is still. Power does not argue. Power simply assumes. And the greatest power you can exercise tonight is to stop fighting the shadows. You have spent years trying to rearrange the outer world with outer hands. You have tried to move people, persuade circumstances, outrun delays, and manage outcomes. And yet, the outer world is only an echo. It repeats what the inner man has spoken. So if you continue to shout at the echo, you exhaust yourself. If you speak anew at the source, the echo must change. That is why I say, do nothing, not the nothing of laziness, the nothing of mastery. Now in your imagination, I want you to recall the feeling of trying, not the details. Only the feeling, that tightness in the chest, that hurry, that pressure, that sense that if you stop, everything will fall apart. Notice it for a moment, and then let it soften, as though a belt were loosened around the body. Because the truth is, your trying has not held life together. Your state has, and tonight you change the state. Now imagine this. You have been standing in a room, pushing against a door with all your strength, believing it must open if you push hard enough. Your shoulders ache, your arms shake, your breath is strained. And then someone whispers to you, you are pushing the wrong way. So you stop. And in stopping, you feel foolish for a moment, because the old habit of struggle wants to justify itself. But then you place your hand lightly on the door, and it opens. That is the feeling I want tonight. Not more force, not more effort, but the right direction. So now, gently, let your whole being stop pushing. Let the mind stop pushing for answers. Let the body stop pushing against discomfort. Let the heart stop pushing against time. And in that pause, feel the quiet that arrives when you no longer fight the present. Now I want you to enter an imaginal scene, not long, not complex, but very calm. Imagine that tomorrow something happens that would only happen if life had rearranged itself without your strain. Perhaps you receive news you did not chase. It comes to you. Perhaps a person who has been distant becomes kind without you prompting it. Perhaps an opportunity appears that you did not force into existence. Perhaps a burden lifts, not because you lifted it, but because the unseen order moved it. And in that moment you think, very simply, I did nothing, and it moved. Now hold that, not the details, the meaning. I did nothing, and it moved. Let that meaning sink beneath words. Let it become a feeling of certainty. Because the subconscious mind is impressed by the feeling of inevitability, not by your mental effort. Now as you lie here, your mind may want to plan. It may want to list the steps. It may want to say, yes, but what should I do tomorrow? What should I do next week? What should I do to keep it from slipping away? And I tell you, that is the same old voice that kept you in the same old world. So you do not answer it with argument. You answer it with a state. You answer it by becoming the person for whom it is already done. Now let us go deeper. Imagine your life as a set of pieces on a board. For so long you have been moving the pieces with nervous fingers, trying to anticipate every move, trying to prevent every loss, trying to ensure every gain. But you do not see the whole board. You cannot. Yet, there is a greater mind within you that does see. There is an intelligence in you that knows how to weave events, how to draw people, how to open the right door at the right moment. And when you strain, you interfere with it. So tonight, you step back from the board. You do not abandon it. You simply stop meddling. You stop micromanaging life, and you allow the deeper wisdom to move. Now, feel that stepping back. Feel it as relief. You are not letting go because you have given up. You are letting go because you have accepted the end. And when the end is accepted, you no longer clutch at the middle. Now I want you to imagine a simple scene that implies completion, not achievement. Completion. Imagine you are sitting quietly and someone says to you, it all worked out. You do not ask how. You do not ask Why now? You do not ask, are you sure? You simply receive it, and you respond, yes, it did. Hear your own voice saying it, softly, as though it is the most natural thing in the world. Yes, it did. Now feel what you would feel if that were true. Would you relax your shoulders? Then relax them now. Would you exhale deeply? Then exhale now. Would you stop scanning for danger? Then stop now. Would you stop checking the clock? Then stop now. Because by the law of reversibility, the feeling that follows the fact can become the cause of the fact, so you feel it first, and the world, obedient, must follow. Now if there is something specific you desire, money, love, freedom, health, do not chase it tonight. Do not chase the symbol. Go to the feeling it would give you. If you desire money, you desire relief, ease, freedom, safety, generosity. If you desire love, you desire warmth, belonging, tenderness, certainty. If you desire health, you desire comfort in the body, confidence, lightness, vitality. So take the essence, the fragrance of the fulfilled desire, and breathe it in now. Feel relief, feel ease, feel the quiet confidence that says, I am cared for by life. And notice how the body responds when you stop resisting. Now I will give you a phrase to carry, not as a charm, but as a state. I do nothing, and life rearranges itself. Say it inwardly once. I do nothing, and life rearranges itself. Now say it again, slower, letting it become a lullaby for the mind. I do nothing, and life rearranges itself. And when you say it, do not let it feel like a hope. Let it feel like an observation, like something you have already proven, because the mind believes what it experiences. So tonight, give it the experience. Now imagine the next day, but only as a single moment. You are walking, or sitting, or speaking with someone, and you realize you are not forcing anything. You are not trying to be impressive. You are not trying to be liked. You are not trying to make life cooperate. And yet, it cooperates. And you smile, not a big smile, just the smallest soft recognition. And you think, this is what happens when I stop. Now, if your mind protests and says, but what if I stop and nothing changes? Listen to me very carefully. If you stop while remaining the same state, you stop and nothing changes. But if you stop because you have entered the new state, everything changes. The doing nothing is not a method. It is the natural behavior of the man who already has it. A wealthy man does not strain to become wealthy. He moves from wealth. A loved woman does not chase love. She moves from being loved. A free man does not beg for permission. He moves from freedom. So tonight, you do nothing, because you are already the one for whom it is done. Now, let the scene become even quieter. Imagine you are lying here, exactly as you are, and the world outside continues to move without your supervision. People speak, plans are made, events unfold, and you are not orchestrating any of it with anxious thought. And yet everything that belongs to your fulfilled life is being arranged, like furniture being placed in a room while you rest, like a table being set in the next room while you sit by the fire. You do not need to watch it. You do not need to direct it. You simply need to remain the person for whom it is being prepared. Now let the body become heavier again. If your legs feel warm or cool, let them be. If your arms feel weighty, let them sink. If your eyelids feel thick, let them close more fully. And if your thoughts begin to drift, let them drift. Because drifting is not failure tonight. Drifting is entry. Now I want you to feel one last thing before sleep takes you. Feel that the burden of figuring it out is no longer yours. Feel that the compulsion to control is dissolving. Feel that you are permitted to rest. And in that rest, the law does its work. Now quietly, inwardly, as though you are speaking to your own deeper self, say, it is done. Not in excitement, not in urgency, but in quiet finality. It is done. Now say, I do nothing, and life rearranges itself. And let that be the last feeling you carry into sleep. Not a request, not a plea, a state. And as you enter sleep, remember, the night is not empty. The night is creative. The night is where the seed is received. So sleep now. Do nothing. And let life rearrange itself. Now we move to the part that most people skip. Not because it is difficult, but because it is quiet. They want fireworks. They want proof. They want something outside of themselves to announce that the change has begun. But the truth is always intimate. The real turning point is almost invisible. It is not a loud victory. It is a soft surrender. It is an inner shift so gentle that if you are not paying attention, you will miss it. And yet, it is the very moment everything begins to click into place. So allow yourself to be still again. Let the body rest as it is. Let the breath come and go without interference. You are not trying to force calm. You are simply permitting calm to happen, as it always does when you stop arguing with the moment. Now listen closely, because what I am about to say will sound too simple, and for that reason it is the key. Your world does not change because you struggle long enough. Your world changes because you consent to being different within yourself. Not tomorrow, not when signs appear, not when the outer world applauds you. It changes the instant you accept a new identity as natural. That acceptance is the click. And tonight, you are going to feel it. First, I want you to notice the old posture of the mind. Not your physical posture, but the inner posture. The one that leans forward, always trying to get there. The one that says, when it happens, then I will be at peace. When it comes, then I will relax. When I see it, then I will believe. Notice that posture, and realize it is only a habit. It is not you. Now gently, without force, let that inner posture change. Let it lean back. Let it soften. Let it stop reaching. Because the new posture is not getting. The new posture is having. And the moment you adopt the posture of having, something inside you becomes quiet, not empty, but settled. That settledness is the click. Now I want you to understand something. You cannot command the subconscious with words that your feeling denies. You cannot speak, I am free, while inwardly gripping the bars. You cannot say, I am loved, while inwardly bracing for abandonment. The subconscious is not persuaded by phrases. It is persuaded by reality, and reality, for it, is what you feel to be true. So tonight you will not try to convince yourself with effort. You will simply move into the feeling of the fulfilled state, as you might move into a warm room from the cold. You do not argue with the warmth. You do not analyze it. You enter it, and it enters you. So now, ask yourself quietly, if everything were already arranged, how would I feel? Do not answer with words. Let the body answer. Let the breath answer. Let the chest answer. Let the belly answer. If it were already arranged, you would not be tight. So loosen. If it were already arranged, you would not be in a hurry. So slow down. If it were already arranged, you would not be waiting for permission. So stop waiting. If it were already arranged, you would feel a certain ease, a certain inevitability, a certain gentle confidence that says, of course. That of course is the click. Now allow that of course to become your atmosphere. Feel it around you like the air in the room. Not an emotion you must maintain with tension, but a natural environment you simply inhabit. And here is where the shift becomes unmistakable. The old self tries to return. It will whisper, yes, but what about the facts? What about the delay? What about the past? What about the bills, the loneliness, the body, the fear? And you will not fight it. You will not argue with it. You will not wrestle it down. That is still the old posture, the posture of struggle. Instead, you will respond from the new identity, very gently, very calmly, as though speaking to a child who is frightened in the dark. You will say inwardly, that is the old story, and it is finished. Not with anger, not with force, with finality. That is the click. Now I want you to imagine something extremely simple. Imagine you are holding a small object in your hand, something ordinary, like a key, and you realize, in that imaginal moment, that this key is the key to your own home. Not a house you hope to enter, not a place you must earn, your own home. And as you hold the key, there is no excitement, no disbelief, no trembling. There is only the quiet certainty of belonging. Now understand what I am doing here. I am teaching you the feeling of ownership, because the fulfilled desire is always ownership, in consciousness first. So feel the ownership now. Not ownership of a thing, but ownership of your life, ownership of your state, ownership of your right to be. And as you feel it, you will notice something. The mind stops asking for evidence. It does not stop because you silenced it. It stops because it has been satisfied. That satisfaction is the click. Now we go deeper still. There is a difference between thinking of yourself and thinking from yourself. Most of humanity thinks of themselves as a body in a world, trying to get something. They look at themselves from the outside, as though they were an object that must be improved, corrected, fixed, made worthy. But the creative act is never performed from that distance. Creation happens when you think from the end. So tonight, you will stop thinking of yourself as the one trying to become. You will think from yourself as the one who already is. And when you do, something changes immediately. The desire no longer feels far away. It feels present. It feels like memory. It feels like reality. Now choose one desire, not to chase it, but to identify its state. If your desire is money, the state is ease, security, freedom, generosity. If your desire is love, the state is chosen, safe, wanted, cherished. If your desire is health, the state is vitality, comfort, confidence, strength. If your desire is success, the state is competence, recognition, inner certainty, steady progress. Now do not picture the whole story. Do not picture the road. Do not picture the steps. Simply enter the state itself. And as you enter it, notice what happens to your inner voice. It becomes quieter. It becomes kinder. It becomes less desperate. It stops begging. And when it stops begging, life stops giving you reasons to beg, because the outer world can only echo the inner voice. So the moment the inner voice changes, everything begins to click. Now let me show you what this click feels like in the simplest way. Imagine someone asks you, "How are things going?" And you answer, not with a report of circumstances, but with a tone. You say, "It's all working out." And when you say it, you do not mean it as a wish. You mean it as a fact. You have accepted within yourself. Hear your own voice saying it. It's all working out. Now let that sentence carry you into the feeling of alignment. Alignment is not excitement. Alignment is not strain. Alignment feels like the end of resistance. Alignment feels like the end of inner debate. Alignment feels like the mind no longer pulling in two directions. Alignment is the click. Now, your reason may protest again and say, "But Neville, what if I do this and I still wake up to the same life?" And I tell you, you may wake up to the same arrangement of shadows for a time, but you will not wake up as the same man, and that is everything. Because the man is the cause, and the arrangement is the effect. So do not judge by what you see when you open your eyes. Judge by who you are when you open your eyes. If you are the same, you have not moved. If you are different within, the world must follow, because it has no other function. Now I want you to feel yourself becoming different in the gentlest way, not by force, not by pretending, but by natural acceptance. Imagine that the burden you have carried, whatever it has been lifted, not later. Now, imagine that you received the good news already. Imagine that the door already opened. Imagine that the person already softened. Imagine that the money already arrived. Imagine that your body already responded. And notice how your nervous system would behave if that were true. It would exhale. So exhale. It would unclench. So unclench. It would rest. So rest. This is not acting. This is entering the state. Now stay here a little while. Let the feeling stabilize. Let it become ordinary. Let it become familiar. Because the moment it feels like, "This is just me," it is done. That ordinariness is the click. Now I will guide you into a very short scene, and you will repeat it gently, like a lullaby for the subconscious. Imagine you are standing at a window in the morning light. You are not rushing. You are not worried. You are not asking, will it happen? Because you know it is already unfolding. And you say softly to yourself, everything is falling into place. Hear it. Everything is falling into place. And as you say it, feel how the phrase lands in the body. Let it land like a warm weight, a comforting certainty. Everything is falling into place. Now notice something subtle. When you truly feel that, you stop searching for the missing piece. You stop scanning for danger. You stop rehearsing the old disappointment. You become present, and presence is power. Now I want to seal the inner shift with a simple recognition. You are not here to make it happen. You are here to accept that it is. You are not here to convince the world. You are here to consent within yourself. You are not here to force the outer. You are here to move the inner. Then the moment you move the inner, everything begins to click. Now as sleep approaches, I want you to remain in this new posture. Not with tension, not with effort, with ease. If thoughts drift in, let them drift through. Do not chase them. Do not wrestle them. Return again to the feeling, it's working out. Return again to the quiet certainty, of course. Return again to the settled identity, I am. And if you wish to complete it softly. I am the one for whom it works out. I am the one for whom it aligns. I am the one who is guided. I am the one who is provided for. And as you say it, do not strain to believe. Let the body receive it as comfort. Let the heart receive it as home. Now rest. Do not try to hold the state like a man gripping a rope. Let it hold you, like a bed holds the body. And as you drift towards sleep, take this with you. The outer world will rearrange itself, because the inner world has shifted. That shift is the click. And once it clicks, it does not unclick. Sleep now in the feeling of alignment. Sleep now in the quiet certainty. Sleep now and let the subconscious do what it always does when it has been impressed with truth. Everything is falling into place. Come closer now, not in body, but in attention. We have spoken of the click, that quiet inner moment, when the argument ends and the soul stops reaching. And if you have felt even a hint of it, you will know what I mean when I tell you that the outer world is always the last to know. So do not consult it. Do not question it. Do not ask it for permission to be what you have decided to be within yourself. Tonight we do something far more important than changing a circumstance. We enter a state, and when you truly enter it, you do not have to hold it like a burden. It holds you like a home. Let the body be comfortable. If there is any strain in your face, release it. Let the forehead smooth. Let the jaw loosen. Let the tongue rest. Let the shoulders drop, as though a heavy coat has been removed. And now, let your breathing become the simplest thing you do, in and out, quietly, naturally. You are not trying to reach a special condition. You are simply allowing yourself to become receptive, because the seed is impressed in receptivity, not in struggle. Now listen carefully. There is a difference between hoping and knowing. Hoping is still a form of begging. It is the posture of not yet. It is the feeling of a man outside the door. Knowing is the posture of ownership. Knowing is already. Knowing is the feeling of a man who has entered the house and sits down because the matter is settled. Tonight, I am not asking you to hope. I am inviting you to enter the state where it is already done. And to help you do it, I will not give you a list. I will not make this an exercise in willpower. I will simply guide you into a mood, because the mood is the secret gate. So now, ask yourself gently, without words, without effort, if it were already accomplished, what would be different in me? Not in the world, in you. If it were already accomplished, there would be a softness, a relief. Not the sharp relief of excitement, but the deep relief of completion. Let that relief come now. You do not need to earn it. You simply allow it. If it were already accomplished, you would not be searching for signs. You would not be scanning the day like a soldier looking for an enemy. You would feel safe. So feel safe now. Safe does not mean nothing ever happens. Safe means you are no longer at the mercy of what happens. Safe means you have taken your seat within yourself. Now I want you to understand something that most misunderstand. When I say it is done, I do not mean you must pretend the outer world has changed. I mean you must accept the inner fact as final, and let the outer world catch up as it always does. For the outer world is a mirror, and a mirror does not create the face. It reflects it. So tonight we do not polish the mirror, we change the face. Now let us choose one desire. Only one. Not because you cannot have many, but because the mind enters a state more easily when it is simple. Choose the desire that has felt heavy, the one you have carried too long. It may be money. It may be love. It may be freedom. It may be health. It may be a door you want opened, a burden you want lifted. Do not name it with many words. Just know what it is. Now instead of thinking of it as something you want, think of it as a state you enter. If it is money, the state is security and ease. If it is love, the state is being chosen and cherished. If it is freedom, the state is spaciousness and unpressured time. If it is health, the state is comfort and vitality. Now I want you to do something that seems small but is everything. I want you to give yourself permission to stop wanting it. Because the moment you stop wanting, you begin to have. Wanting is the confession of not having. Having is silent. So tonight, let wanting end. Let the desire become a settled fact within you. Now how do we enter the state? We do it through a short imaginal act, a scene that would naturally take place after the fulfillment. Not during the struggle, not during the journey, after. So imagine a simple moment, a moment so ordinary it would occur without effort if your desire were already fulfilled. Perhaps you are sitting at a table, and someone close to you says, "I'm so happy for you." Or perhaps you are looking at a letter in your hand, and you feel the calm certainty, it's settled. Or perhaps you are lying in bed, and you feel a peace you have not felt in a long time. Because the problem is no longer a problem. Choose one moment. Keep it short. Keep it natural. Now enter it, not as a spectator, but as the one who is living it. Do not see yourself from across the room like a picture. See from your own eyes. Feel it from the inside. If your hands are in the scene, feel them. If you are holding something, feel its weight. If someone is speaking, hear the tone. If you are smiling, feel it in the cheeks, the warmth in the chest. And above all, feel the thing that makes the scene real, the satisfaction of completion. Now I will slow this down, because the subconscious is impressed by depth, not speed. Stay in the scene. Let it repeat softly, like a gentle turning of a wheel, not many details. The same little loop, again and again, until it takes on the solidity of experience. And as you repeat it, notice the feeling that rises, the feeling that nothing needs to be done, because it is done. Now let me tell you a secret that will save you from effort. You do not enter the state by forcing emotion. You enter the state by accepting the implication. If it were done, you would feel relieved. So accept relief. If it were done, you would feel calm. So accept calm. If it were done, you would feel natural. So accept naturalness. The naturalness is the proof. When it feels like this is simply my life, it is done. Now perhaps your mind will try to interrupt. It may say, "But this is imagination," and you must answer, not with argument, but with understanding. Imagination is the only creative power. The world you call real is simply the outpicturing of imaginal acts. You have been imagining all your life, but unknowingly, and then you called the results fate. Tonight you imagine knowingly, and you will call the results the law. Now remain with the short scene a little longer. Let it become still. Let it become quiet. Let it become less like an effort and more like a memory. Because the fulfilled desire feels like memory. It has the tone of something already established. And when it gains that tone, the subconscious accepts it. Now gently allow the scene to fade and keep only the feeling. This is important. The scene is a boat. The feeling is the shore. You do not carry the boat on land. You leave it, and you walk with the feeling. So leave the scene behind now, and remain in the mood of already done. How does that mood feel? It feels like you are no longer negotiating. It feels like you are no longer pleading. It feels like the inner conversation has ended with a final yes. It feels like certainty without words. Now in that mood, let a single phrase rise within you. Not shouted, not repeated like a charm, simply stated as a fact. It is done. Say it inwardly. Once, slowly. It is done. Now do not try to prove it. Do not try to explain it. Do not ask how. The state where it is already done has no questions, because questions belong to the state of not having. So if a question arises, recognize it as a visitor from the old state. Let it pass. Return to it as done. And if another question arises, do the same. This is not battle. This is selection. You are selecting a state, the way you might select a chair, and sit down. You do not fight the other chairs. You simply take your seat. Now I want you to feel what it would be like to wake tomorrow as the one for whom it is done. Not to wake and check, not to wake and test, not to wake and measure, to wake with the quiet assumption that the matter is settled. Feel that kind of morning. Notice how you would move. Notice how you would look at the day. Notice how you would speak to others. Notice how you would breathe. And now, without strain, begin to feel that you are that one now. Because the only time you ever have is now. If you postpone the state, you postpone the manifestation. So do not postpone it. Enter it now. Now let a gentle gratitude appear. Not gratitude that it will happen. Gratitude that it is. Gratitude is not a performance. It is a natural fragrance of completion. If it feels forced, drop it. Return to the simple relief. But if it rises naturally, let it fill you quietly. And now I will guide you into the final and most important part of this visualization, the surrender of effort. Many people do the imaginal act, and then, like a child, they run to the mirror the next morning to see if they have changed. They do not realize that their running is the confession of doubt. Tonight, you will not run, you will rest. You will let the seed be in the soil without digging it up. So now, feel the state of already done as a deep stillness. Let the body become heavier. Let the eyes be soft behind the lids. Let the breath be slow, like the sea. And in that quiet, feel that life itself is rearranging to match what you have accepted. Not because life is a person deciding to help you, but because consciousness is law, and the world is the shadow of your consciousness. Now I will speak to you as I would speak to a friend, sitting in the front row of my lecture hall, weary from trying. Stop trying, not because you are giving up, but because you have entered the state where trying is unnecessary. You have done the only thing that needs to be done. You have accepted the end. You have felt the reality. You have become the one who has it. Now rest in that, and if you fall asleep, let sleep take you in this state. If you remain awake, remain gentle. Do not push. Do not strain. Let the last feeling you carry into the night be the simplest one of all. It is done. And because it is done, everything is now free to fall into place. Now we go deeper into the meaning of rest, because most have never truly rested a day in their life. They have slept, yes. They have collapsed, yes. But rest, the Sabbath of which the scriptures speak, is not mere sleep, and it is not idleness. It is a state of consciousness in which the work is finished. So let me ask you to lay down the burden you have been carrying. So long you have mistaken it for yourself. Make yourself comfortable. Let the body find its ease without argument. If a muscle is holding, let it soften. If your hands are clenched, let them open. If the brow is furrowed, let it smooth. Let the breath come and go quietly, like something you do not need to manage. And now I want you to notice something. There is a difference between trying to make life happen and allowing life to reveal what you have already accepted within yourself. The first is strain. The second is law. Tonight you are not here to strain. Tonight you are here to enter the Sabbath. In the story of creation, God labored 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. Do you think the Creator was tired? No. He rested because the work was complete. He rested because there was nothing left to add, nothing left to fix, nothing left to chase. This is the Sabbath I speak of. And you, my dear friend, will enter it now. First, remember what you have already done. You have assumed the end. You have felt the wish fulfilled. You have known, even if only for a moment, what it would be like if the matter were settled. That moment, when it felt natural, was the act of creation. Creation is finished, the instant you accept it as finished. The world you see with the senses is always late. It is the echo, not the voice. It is the shadow, not the substance. So do not demand that the shadow convince you of the substance. It cannot. Instead, you will rest in the substance and let the shadow follow. Now, I want you to choose, gently, the fulfilled fact, not the problem, not the path, the fulfilled fact. Perhaps it is the feeling of security, as though you are held, provided for, safe. Perhaps it is the feeling of being loved, not hoping to be loved, but quietly knowing you are. Perhaps it is the feeling of freedom, as though the day belongs to you, and life does not press upon you. Perhaps it is the feeling of health, as though your body is a friend again, and you move without fear. Do not speak it aloud. Just select it inwardly. And now, instead of imagining a great drama, I want you to accept a simple knowing, the kind that comes when something is already arranged. If the matter were settled, you would stop checking. You would stop rehearsing arguments. You would stop scanning for danger. You would stop measuring time. So let all checking cease. Let the mind that has been running up and down the corridors of tomorrow sit down at last. Feel what it is like to sit down inwardly. There is a posture of the soul when it is finished. It is quiet. It is steady. It does not reach forward like a hand grasping at smoke. It rests. Let that posture come upon you now. If thoughts rise, do not fight them. Fighting is still a form of belief in them. Simply notice them as you might notice a cloud passing across the sky, and return again and again to the one simple feeling, it is done. Not shouted, not forced, just accepted. It is done. Let those words be a soft finality. It is done. Now, if you truly feel it is done, you will not feel the need to make it happen. And that is the sign you have entered the Sabbath. The Sabbath is the absence of compulsion. So listen to your own inner world. Is there compulsion? Is there urgency? Is there a tightness that says, yes, but? If so, do not condemn yourself. Do not say, I am doing it wrong. Merely recognize you are visiting the old state for a moment, and return to the new one with tenderness. The Sabbath is not achieved by violence. It is entered by surrender. Now I will guide you into a small imaginal moment, but this time not to create, for the creation is done. This is to confirm the mood of completion. Imagine the simplest scene that would naturally take place after everything has been arranged. Not a scene of celebration, not a scene of fireworks, a quiet scene. Perhaps you are walking as you always walk, but inside you there is a relief you cannot explain. Perhaps you are sitting in a chair, reading, and you notice there is no anxious pull in your chest, because the matter has resolved itself. Perhaps you are preparing for sleep, and you realize with a strange gentleness that you are not worried. Choose one quiet moment. Enter it now from within yourself. See what you would see if you were there. Hear what you would hear. Feel the mood of it. And above all, sense the absence of strain, the absence of trying. Let it be ordinary, because the greatest miracles come clothed in ordinariness. Now let the scene fade, and keep only the mood it gave you, completion. This mood is your Sabbath. Now I want you to do something very important. I want you to stop asking how. The question how is the fingerprint of the old man, the old state. The state that believes the outer world is cause. The state that believes you must push the river to make it flow. But the river flows because it is a river, and your world rearranges because it must. So let the how fall away. If you find your mind reaching for the method, gently say within yourself, that is not my office. Your office is to occupy the state. The ways and means are not your business. They are the automatic outworking of the law. Now in this rest, something subtle begins to happen. The body becomes heavy, not from weariness, but from safety. The mind becomes quiet, not from exhaustion, but from certainty. The heart becomes soft, not from surrender to defeat, but from surrender to fulfillment. Let all of that happen. And now I will tell you what it means to watch the world catch up. Though you will not watch with strained eyes, you will watch the way a person watches the dawn. You do not pull the sun over the horizon. You do not argue with the darkness. You simply know the dawn is law, and in its hour it appears. So it is with your assumption. Your inner act is the cause. The world is the effect. If you have accepted the end, the effect must come. It may come through a conversation that seems casual. It may come through an invitation that arrives at the right moment. It may come through a change of heart in another, without them knowing why they changed. It may come through an opening where there was once a wall. It may come through a door you did not even know existed. And because you are in Sabbath, you will not be frantic about it. You will not be surprised, though others may call it coincidence. You will simply recognize the echo. You will say inwardly, "Of course, this is the shadow catching up." Now let us deepen the Sabbath by touching the most delicate point of all, your sense of self. When the world looks unchanged, what do you say you are? Do you say, "I am still behind"? Do you say, "I am still unloved"? Do you say, "I am still struggling"? Those are confessions of a state, and the world, being faithful, will reflect them. But tonight you are not confessing the old state. You are wearing a new name. So now, softly, inwardly, complete the only divine name. I am, and do not complete it with a struggle. Complete it with a fact that belongs to the fulfilled state. I am at peace. I am secure. I am chosen. I am provided for. I am free. Choose one, and let it be true now, not later. Do not say it many times. Say it once, and then live in its feeling. Because the subconscious is impressed by acceptance, not by repetition. Now in this Sabbath, gratitude appears in the right way. Not gratitude that it will happen. Not gratitude that it might happen. But gratitude that it is. Gratitude is the natural response of the fulfilled. If gratitude feels forced, leave it. Return to the relief. Return to the peace. Gratitude will come like perfume when the rose opens. And now, I want to guide you into a very gentle practice, suitable for the edge of sleep. You will not force images. You will not strain. You will simply let a single feeling wash through you like warm water. The feeling is this: everything is taken care of. Say it inwardly, slowly. Everything is taken care of. And notice what happens in the body when you accept that. The shoulders loosen, the stomach softens, the breath deepens, the mind quiets. This is not poetry. This is a state. Now let the words go, and keep only the sensation of being cared for by life itself, not by a distant deity outside of you, but by the law within you, the operant power that is your own wonderful human imagination. Because when you assume, life rearranges to match, as naturally as a shadow follows a man. Now if you are still awake, you may notice a subtle fear that whispers, "If I stop trying, nothing will happen." That fear has kept many in bondage. But I tell you, trying from fear is exactly what delays fulfillment, because it confesses that fulfillment is absent. The Sabbath is the end of delay. So when that fear whispers, answer it with stillness. Do nothing. Not because you are powerless, but because you have already moved to the end. And from the end, there is nothing to do. There is only to be. Now let me speak to you intimately. If you have been chasing for years, your nervous system has learned the rhythm of pursuit. It will feel strange at first to stop running. It may feel like emptiness, but it is not emptiness. It is space. And in space, the new state can take root. So do not fill the space with worry. Do not fill it with plans born of panic. Let it be. This is the soil. Now allow yourself to feel that the rearrangement is already in motion, not as hope, but as inevitability. Feel the inevitability. the way you feel the inevitability of tomorrow's morning, the way you feel the inevitability of the tide, the way you feel the inevitability of a seed becoming a plant when placed in good earth. You do not see it in the moment, but you know it by law. So know it now. And now, if you wish, let the mind picture the world as a great stage, and you as the one who has changed the script within. The actors will play their parts according to the script. They may not know why they feel moved to speak certain words, to offer certain opportunities, to open certain doors, but they will. Because the world is yourself pushed out, and when the self changes, the push out changes. So feel the script already changed. Feel the scene already written. Feel the ending already chosen. And rest. Now I will lead you into the final depth of Sabbath rest, the place where the mind ceases to rehearse altogether. Let the breath become slower. Let the body become heavier. Let the thoughts become fewer. And if thoughts remain, let them be like distant footsteps in another house, not your concern. Return again to the simplest inner statement, it is done. Let it be a lullaby, not a command. It is done. Now feel yourself drifting into sleep as the one who has already received, not waiting, not begging, not chasing, already received. And because you have received within, you can let the world take its time. You do not hurry an echo. You do not threaten a mirror. You simply remain what you have assumed. So if you sleep, sleep in the Sabbath. If you wake in the night, do not start the old labor again. Do not pick up the burden. Simply return to the feeling of completion as you would return to a familiar pillow. And if the day comes and the senses report something contrary, do not argue with them. Remember, the senses report yesterday. Your assumption is tomorrow. So remain faithful to your assumption, not with strain, but with rest. And in that rest, you will watch quietly, naturally, how the world catches up to the decision you made within yourself. Not because you forced it, not because you deserved it, not because you convinced anyone, but because you entered the Sabbath, and the work was finished. Now let the last feeling be this, like a soft blanket laid over the mind. All is well. And in that all is well, everything falls into place, and you do not have to lift a finger to make it so. Now we turn from watching the world catch up to the simple art of letting it come to you. For there is a vast difference between a life that is pushed forward by effort and a life that is drawn toward you by the state you occupy. You have been taught in 1,000 subtle ways that receiving is something you do after you have proven yourself, that you must earn peace, earn love, earn provision, earn relief, and so you have strained. You have tightened the mind, you have held the breath, you have watched the horizon like a guard who believes danger is always approaching. But I tell you, the only thing you ever truly receive is the thing you first accept as true within yourself. So tonight, we will do something very simple. We will stop forcing, and we will start receiving. Make yourself comfortable again. If you are lying down, let the weight of the body settle into the bed as though it has permission to be supported. If you are seated, let the chair carry you. Do not hold yourself up with unnecessary effort. Let the earth do its work. Now notice the breath. You do not need to change it. Just notice it. It comes and it goes. It asks nothing from you. It does not demand that you understand it. It does not insist that you manage it. It simply gives itself. And in that simple giving, it is teaching you the nature of receiving. Most people do not realize how often they force life. They force it with their questions. They force it with their worry. They force it with their constant planning. They force it by revisiting what is painful until it feels permanent. They force it by turning every desire into a problem to be solved. Forcing is not only the actions of the hands, it is the posture of the soul. So let us change the posture. I want you to become aware, gently, of any place in you that feels like it must make it happen. Do not judge it. Do not fight it. Just notice it. It may feel like pressure in the chest. It may feel like tightness in the throat. It may feel like a restless turning of the mind. This is not wrong. It is simply a habit, and habits can be released. So now, As you breathe out, let that forcing soften by a single degree, not all at once, not with drama, just a slight loosening as though you are unfastening a collar. Breathe out, and let the mind loosen. Again, breathe out, and let the shoulders loosen. Again, breathe out, and let the heart loosen. Now you may ask, but Neville, if I do not force, will I lose my chance? Will life pass me by? And I answer, your chance was never outside of you. Your good was never something you had to chase. It was always something you had to accept. For the law is simple, you do not get what you want, you get what you are. And what you are is determined by what you consent to be in consciousness. So let us consent to receiving. I want you quietly to bring to mind the feeling you have always wanted to feel. Not the object, not the person, not the circumstance. The feeling, is it relief? Is it security? Is it being cherished? Is it freedom? Is it dignity? Is it peace? Choose one and do not analyze it. Just choose it the way you might choose a warm room on a cold evening. Now, instead of trying to create it, allow it to come upon you as something that is already yours. The way drowsiness comes upon you, the way warmth comes upon you when you sit by a fire. You do not force warmth, you sit near it, and you receive it. So sit near this feeling. Let it approach you, let it cover you. If the mind says, I cannot feel it, do not wrestle with the mind. Simply ask, if it were true, what would it feel like? And then let the faintest suggestion of that feeling be enough. A seed is enough. You do not need a forest to begin. You need a seed. Now let me show you something. Forcing always carries a hidden message. It says, I do not yet have it. It says, it is not yet done. It says, I must struggle to become worthy. Receiving carries a different message. It says, it is already mine. It says, it is done. It says, I am allowed. So I want you to adopt, just for this moment, the inner permission. Say to yourself, softly without effort, I am allowed to receive. Do not repeat it like a chant. Say it once, and let it land. I am allowed to receive. Now watch what happens. The body will respond to permission. The nervous system will respond. The mind will respond. Even if it responds slowly, it will respond. Now let us go a little deeper. What do you force most often? You force timing. You force outcomes. You force other people's minds. You force the path. But the path is not your concern. The path belongs to the law. Your concern is state. So we will release the path. I want you to imagine for a moment that there is a great intelligence in life, and that this intelligence is not separate from you, but is your own consciousness expressed. And when you assume the end, this intelligence arranges the means. You do not have to micromanage the bridge of incidents. You do not have to stand at every doorway and demand that it open. You simply take your seat in the fulfilled state, and life does what life does. So now, imagine that your desire, whatever it is, has already been accepted in consciousness. Not hoped for, accepted. Like a letter already posted. Like a seed already planted. Like a matter already decided. And because it is already decided, you no longer bargain with it. You no longer plead. You no longer negotiate. You rest. Feel what it is like to rest when something is already handled. There is a distinct sensation in that. It is quiet. It is spacious. It is almost boring to the old anxious mind, because it does not contain drama. But that quiet is power. That quiet is the Sabbath. Now I will give you an imaginal act, but it will be gentle. We are not here to strain the mind into pictures. We are here to receive a mood. So imagine a simple moment from your life, an ordinary moment, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps next week, where you notice something has changed. Not outwardly at first, inwardly. You are walking and you suddenly realize you are not worried. You are eating and you realize you are at ease. You are speaking with someone and you realize you are confident. You are sitting alone, and instead of loneliness, you feel companionship with life itself. Choose one quiet moment. Let it be small. Now in that moment, let a single thought arise naturally, as it would if it were true. How wonderful it worked itself out. Not shouted, not performed, just thought softly. How wonderful it worked itself out. And now feel the natural gratitude that follows. Not gratitude for what might come, but gratitude because it is here. Let the scene fade and keep the feeling. This is receiving. Now there is a strange thing about receiving. The moment you truly receive inwardly, the urge to force disappears, because you do not force what you already possess. A man does not chase his own name. A woman does not pursue her own shadow. You do not demand what is already yours. So if you still feel the urge to force, do not be discouraged. It only means you have not yet fully received. So return again to the mood of already settled, already handled, already arranged, already yours. Now I want to speak about the one place where forcing is most subtle, in the act of trying to convince yourself. Many try to convince themselves with words. They repeat statements, not from faith, but from panic. They are not affirming, they are arguing, and arguing is forcing. So tonight, do not argue. Do not persuade. Just accept. Acceptance is the doorway to the subconscious. When something is accepted, it is done. So let your inner speech become simple. One sentence. A quiet sentence. It is done. Say it inwardly once, and then let it be. Now notice the body again. If there is any part of you that feels like it must hold itself together, give it permission to be held. There is a deeper receiving than receiving money, receiving love, receiving opportunity. There is the receiving of support, the receiving of being carried. Most have never let themselves be carried. They think it is weakness, but I tell you, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that the outer world is an effect, and the inner assumption is cause. So you are not here to carry the entire world on your back. You are here to choose a state and rest in it. Now gently imagine that the world is moving toward your assumption like iron to a magnet, and you are the magnet. You do not chase iron, you do not run after it. You remain what you are, and it comes. So remain in the feeling of being supported. Remain in the feeling of being chosen. Remain in the feeling of being provided for. Remain in the feeling of being loved. Choose one and let it be your bed, your pillow, your covering. Now, if the mind brings up reasons why it cannot be so, do not debate them. Reasons are only the voices of the old state. They have no creative power unless you give them your consent. So do not consent. Let them pass like distant traffic in a far-off street. You remain in your room, in your quiet. Now I want you to feel for a moment what it would be like if you had nothing to prove, nothing to earn, nothing to defend, nothing to chase. What would your breathing be like? What would your face feel like? What would your heart feel like? Let that be your state now. And in that state, you will begin to receive, not because you are forcing the world, but because you have stopped resisting the good that is already yours in the infinite states of being. This is the great secret. You were never trying to get something. You were only trying to stop being the one who cannot receive it. So we will cease being that one. Tonight, you are the one who receives easily. You are the one who is supported. You are the one for whom life works out. And because you are that one, you will notice the world changing without effort. It may begin in small ways. A simple kindness, a sudden opening, a thought that feels like guidance, a coincidence that is not coincidence at all, a change in another's manner toward you. Do not chase these signs. Do not clutch them. Let them come and go. They are only the shadow catching up. Your work is to remain. Now, we will seal this with a final inward act. Very quiet, very simple. Imagine you are lying down to sleep, as you may be now, and there is a voice within you, not a loud voice, not a voice of command, just a gentle knowing that says, you may rest now. It is being arranged. Let those words wash through you. You may rest now. It is being arranged. And in that permission, let your body become heavier. Let your mind become quieter. Let your heart become softer. You are not forcing. You are receiving. Now if you drift into sleep, let it be the sleep of one who is already provided for. If you remain awake, remain in the same mood. Do not try to get to sleep. Even sleep is received. You do not force it. You yield to it. So yield now, and remember, the world will always rearrange itself around the one who has stopped forcing and has begun to receive. Not because of luck, not because of chance, but because you have entered the state where it is already done. And in that state, everything comes to you naturally. Everything falls into place. Now we move gently from receiving to flowing. Because there is a point where the soul no longer tries to hold life together, and life begins to carry the soul. Struggle is not life's requirement. It is only a state you have worn for so long that it feels like identity. You have called it responsibility. You have called it realism. You have called it survival. But it is simply an arrangement of consciousness, and what has been arranged can be rearranged. So tonight, I will lead you out of that old posture, not by force, never by force, never by force, but by the simplest shift a man can make. The shift from I must make it happen to it is happening through me. Settle again, as you are. Let the body be where it is. Let the room be what it is. Nothing needs to change around you for the state to change within you. The outer world can remain exactly as it is, and yet you can enter a completely different life. Begin by noticing where you have been carrying strain. Most carry it in the forehead, as though they are always solving something. Many carry it in the jaw, as though they are always bracing. Many carry it in the chest, as though they are holding back a wave. Many carry it in the stomach, as though life is an enemy that might strike. Do not condemn yourself for it. You did not choose it knowingly. You learned it. And what is learned can be unlearned. Now take a slow breath in, and as you breathe out, allow the body to give up 1 small ounce of effort. Not all the effort, just 1 small ounce. As though you were loosening a fist you did not even know was clenched. Again, breathe in slowly. And as you breathe out, release another small ounce of effort. Let the shoulders descend. Let the tongue rest. Let the eyes soften behind the lids. Now I want you to observe the difference between effort and being. Effort has a sharp edge. Being has a roundness. Effort pushes. Being allows. Effort says, I must. Being says, I am. So tonight, we are not pushing. We are allowing. Now I ask you to remember, just for a moment, a time when something worked out for you, without strain. It may have been small, a conversation that ended well, a problem that resolved unexpectedly, a door that opened at the right moment, a burden lifted before you knew how it would lift. Do you recall the feeling that followed? That quiet astonishment, that gentle relief, that sense that life, after all, could be kind. That feeling is not dependent on the circumstance. It is a state, and you can enter it now, so we will enter it. Let that memory fade, and keep only the mood it left behind. The mood of relief, the mood of things being handled, the mood of life cooperating. Now in your imagination, I want you to feel what it is like to lay down the heavy pack you have been carrying. Not physically, inwardly. It is as though you have been walking a long road with a burden strapped to your back, and you have believed it was yours to carry. Yet now you discover, you may set it down. So set it down. Do not argue with the mind. Do not ask how. Simply feel the act of setting it down. The shoulders would feel different. The spine would feel different. The breath would deepen on its own. Let the burden drop from you. Now I tell you something true. The state of struggle is a confession. It is the confession, my good is not yet mine. It is the confession, I am not safe until I see evidence. It is the confession, life must be forced, and the world, being the faithful mirror that it is, reflects that confession back as more reason to struggle. But flow is also a confession. Flow says, my good is present. Flow says, I am supported. Flow says life arranges itself around the state I occupy. So tonight we will make a new confession. Not loudly, not theatrically, quietly, like a seed placed in soil. Say inwardly, very softly, I am carried. Do not shout it, do not repeat it endlessly. Say it once, and let it sink. I am carried. Now let the words be replaced by the feeling they imply. If you were carried, you would stop bracing. If you were carried, you would stop scanning for danger. If you were carried, you would stop tightening around the future. So soften around the future. Now imagine, as though it were true, that life is not against you. Imagine it is for you. Imagine it is intelligent. Imagine it moves with purpose. And imagine that this purpose is not outside of you, but within you. Because your own wonderful human imagination is the creative power. So the power that arranges your day, arranges your meetings, arranges your encounters, arranges your opportunities, is not a stranger. It is your own being. And when you accept that, you stop wrestling with life, because you stop wrestling with yourself. Now, let us make this practical in the simplest way. Bring to mind, gently, the area of life where you have felt the most struggle. Do not choose 10 things. Choose one. Money, perhaps. A relationship, health, work, a decision, a fear that returns. Choose one, and do not tell a long story about it. We are not here for the story. We are here for the state beneath the story. Now notice what you usually do when you think of this area. Perhaps you tighten. Perhaps you rush to solutions. Perhaps you feel urgency. Perhaps you feel frustration. Perhaps you feel heaviness. That is the state of struggle. So we will not fix the circumstance. We will replace the state. Now ask yourself very gently, if this were already resolved, what would I feel? Not, what would you do? Not how would you explain it? What would you feel? You would feel relief. You would feel calm. You would feel steadiness. You would feel normal again. You would feel, of course, naturally. So now, without forcing it, let the first hint of that feeling appear. It may be faint. That is enough. It may be brief. That is enough. Because the subconscious is moved by feeling, not by strain. Now, I want you to imagine a simple scene, not a complicated scene, a simple one, implying fulfillment. If the struggle has been money, imagine holding a statement in your hands and feeling ease. Or imagine paying a bill without the inner sting. Or imagine speaking of your affairs with calm dignity, as though it is settled. If the struggle has been love, imagine hearing a familiar voice speak your name with tenderness. Or imagine a hand in your hand. Or imagine the quiet certainty of being chosen. If the struggle has been health, imagine waking with lightness. Or imagine walking with strength. Or imagine hearing the words, everything is fine, and feeling that it is true. Choose one simple scene. Let it be short. Let it be natural. Now, step into it. Not as an observer watching yourself, but as the one who is there. Feel the weight of your body in that fulfilled moment. Hear the sound that would be present. Notice the calmness that would fill the chest. Notice the quiet smile that would come without effort. And now, in that scene, let one sentence arise that would be natural if it were done. Something like, I knew it would work out. Or, it all fell into place. Or, I can breathe again. Let the sentence be ordinary. Let it be your own. Now repeat the scene once more, slowly. Not to persuade, not to force, only to accept. Acceptance is the secret. Again, step into it. Again, feel it. Again, hear it. Again, let the sentence arise. And now let the scene fade away like mist and keep the feeling. This feeling is the new state. This feeling is flow. Now let us understand flow. Flow does not mean you will never act. It means you will never act from panic. It means your actions will rise from fulfillment, not from fear. When a man is in the state of struggle, his actions are sharp and desperate. He grabs, he pushes, he tries to control outcomes, and then he calls it effort. But when a man is in the state of flow, his actions are gentle and timely. He moves when moved. He speaks when it is natural to speak. He waits when waiting is wisdom. He does not force a door. He walks through the door that opens. So flow is not laziness. Flow is alignment. Now I want you to feel this alignment in the body. Imagine there is a line within you, like a plumb line, straight and true. And for a long time, you have leaned away from it. You have leaned into worry, you have leaned into doubt, you have leaned into how. Tonight, you return to the line, so feel yourself coming back to center. Centered breathing, centered mind, centered heart. Now, very softly, say inwardly, I am aligned. Again, do not chant, do not strain. Say it like a fact you have remembered. I am aligned. Now let the words disappear, and let the body agree. When you are aligned, you do not feel rushed. When you are aligned, you do not feel hunted by time. When you are aligned, you trust the unfolding. So trust the unfolding. Now you may notice the mind trying to step in again with questions. Well, what about tomorrow? What about the past? What about the risks? And I tell you, the mind will do that out of habit. Let it speak and do not answer it. Return instead to the feeling of already handled. Return to the feeling of being carried. Return to the feeling of alignment. If the mind insists, simply say inwardly, that belongs to the old state, and let it pass. Now, let us deepen the flow. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, the bridge of incidents forming quietly in your life. You do not see it from the beginning. You do not understand it while it happens. You often recognize it only after it is complete. So we will not try to design it. We will not try to command it. We will simply allow it. Imagine that, even now, things are moving. People are thinking differently. Circumstances are shifting. Events are arranging. And all of it is happening without your strain. Feel what it is like to be free from the management of life. Feel what it is like to let life do its work. Now let the breath become a little slower, if it wishes. Let the eyelids become a little heavier. If they wish, let the body sink, as though it has found a safer world. And now we seal this session the way I would have you seal any assumption. We end in rest. So I ask you to enter the mood of completion, not of hope, not of waiting. Completion. Feel the simple certainty. It is done. Say it inwardly. Once. It is done. And now let the words dissolve. Remain only as the feeling of struggle gone, the feeling of flow present, the feeling of alignment. If you fall asleep, let it be in that feeling. If you remain awake, remain in that feeling. Because what you feel as real now will be expressed as real in the world of shadows. And the world will call it coincidence, and you will call it law. Now rest, my dear friend. Rest from forcing, rest into receiving, rest into flow, and let everything, by the very nature of your assumption, begin to align as you sleep. Now we go even further into the most misunderstood part of this law, the part that saves you from strain and keeps you from meddling with what you have already set in motion. For after you have assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled, something begins to form in your world, quietly, naturally, without announcement. It is what I have called the bridge of incidents, and I want you to understand it in the simplest way. If you have truly entered the state, then the means must appear, the path must appear, the sequence must appear. Yet it will not appear as a trumpet sounding from the heavens. It will appear as life, as normal days, as ordinary events, as chance meetings, small urges, sudden changes of mind, delays that become blessings, doors that close so that you do not enter what you once begged for. So tonight, we will not try to see the whole bridge. We will not demand to know each step. We will do something far more powerful. We will consent to its unfolding, and we will allow the bridge to appear in its own natural way. Settle again as you are. Let your hands be still. Let the eyes rest. Let your breathing become soft and unimportant, as though the body is breathing you. Now, before we begin, I want you to lay down one habit, the habit of asking, how? For the moment you ask how, you have stepped out of the state. You have returned to the old man who believes he must control life. But the new man knows that life is the expression of consciousness, and consciousness has already been changed. So if the mind asks, how? Tonight, you will not wrestle it. You will not scold it. You will simply return to one quiet sentence, spoken inwardly, as gently as you might speak to a child. It unfolds. Say that now, softly within yourself. It may be only a whisper in your mind. It unfolds. And now let the meaning of those words spread through you like warmth. If it unfolds, you do not have to push it. If it unfolds, you do not have to watch it in fear. If it unfolds, you do not have to grab at it. You simply remain faithful to the state. Now I ask you to bring to mind, very lightly, the desire that matters most to you at this moment. Do not strain. Do not build a long picture. Just a simple recognition. There is something you have wanted to be, to have, or to experience. Hold it as gently as you would hold a small bird in your hand. Not tight, not with pressure, just present. Now remember what you did earlier. You did not beg. You did not plead with the outer world. You entered the feeling of fulfillment. You tasted the mood of already done. And if you have done that, then you have planted a seed. And a seed does not need your anxiety. A seed needs only that you leave it undisturbed. So tonight, we practice leaving it undisturbed. Now imagine, without effort, that your life is a river. And you have been trying to swim upstream, pushing against the current, exhausting yourself, and calling it discipline. But now you have turned. Now you let the current carry you. Because the current is your own assumed state made visible. So feel yourself turning in that river. Let the struggle end. Let the body soften, as though it has stopped fighting the water. Now, in your imagination, I want you to picture a simple bridge appearing over a gap. Do not build it plank by plank. Do not design it. Simply see that there is a gap between where I seem to be and where I have assumed myself to be, and now the bridge begins to appear. At first, it may be only mist, only outline, only a suggestion. That is enough. Now, as you look at this bridge, notice something. You cannot see every step. You cannot see the entire path. Perhaps you can only see the next few feet, and that is exactly how it appears in life. It does not come with a full map. It comes with the next natural movement. So now, feel the relief of not needing the full map. Let that relief come over you. Now I want you to imagine that you are standing at the beginning of that bridge, and there is no urgency. There is no pressure. You are not being chased. You are not late. The bridge is there because the state is assumed. Now let a simple thought arise, like a quiet knowing. I do not have to force this. Say it inwardly, gently. I do not have to force this. And now let that become a feeling. The shoulders drop. The forehead smooths. The chest loosens. The stomach releases. Because you do not have to force what is already arranged. Now I will speak plainly. Many people, after they assume, begin to interfere. They begin to dig up the seed. They begin to watch every sign. They begin to measure days and count hours. They begin to look for proof. And proof is not the cause. Proof is the effect. So tonight, we remove the need for proof. Feel what it is like to live without the need for proof. It is freedom. Now in your imagination, take one gentle step onto that bridge. Only one, not 10, just one. And as you take that step, realize that it is not an act of effort. It is an act of consent. You are consenting to the unfolding. Now notice something. As you step, you do not hear loud noises. You do not see fireworks. You simply feel a quiet rightness. And that is how the bridge often feels. It feels normal. It feels almost too simple for the mind that loves drama. So accept the simplicity. Now, as you stand on this bridge, I want you to observe what lies behind you. Behind you is the old habit of force, the old habit of strain, the old habit of trying to manipulate people, events, and time. And ahead of you is a different life, but it will not appear as a different sky. It will appear as different circumstances shaped by the new state. Now let us deepen this by making it personal, and yet keeping it gentle. Imagine that you are going to sleep tonight, and while you sleep, the bridge begins to show itself in your world, not with noise, not with drama, but with the most ordinary little movements. Perhaps someone thinks of you and decides to call. Perhaps a letter arrives. Perhaps you overhear a conversation. Perhaps an idea comes to you in the morning. Perhaps an invitation appears. Perhaps a delay happens, and that delay saves you from something you would have regretted. See how natural it is. That is the bridge. It moves through the ordinary. So now, let your mind accept the ordinary as divine, because the divine does not come to you as spectacle, it comes to you as life rearranged. Now I want you to feel the mood of trust, not trust in luck, not trust in other people, trust in law, trust in the nature of consciousness, trust in the fact that what you have assumed must externalize. So say inwardly, very quietly, I have done it within. Say it now, I have done it within, and now let the meaning sink. If it is done within, then the outer must follow in its own appointed way. Now imagine that there is a gentle hand, unseen, guiding the sequence, but this hand is not outside of you. It is your own deeper being. It is the I am, moving in the world of shadows to match the state you have selected. So you do not have to manage the sequence, you only have to remain. Now let us practice remaining. Bring back the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not an image, not a story, only the feeling, the relief, the satisfaction, the quiet joy, the normalness of it being done. Feel it now, in the simplest way. And now, while you hold that feeling, imagine the bridge continues to build itself under your feet. You do not build it, it builds itself because you are in the state. So the next step appears, and the next without your strain. Now I want to remove one more fear from you. The fear of doing the wrong thing. When you are truly in the state, you will not be compelled toward frantic action. You will be gently moved toward natural action. You will feel an impulse that is calm. You will feel a desire that has no panic in it. You will feel a decision that seems obvious, and if you do nothing at all, you will still find life moving you, because the bridge does not require your force, it requires your faithfulness. So tonight we surrender the fear of wrong steps. Say inwardly, very softly, I cannot miss what is mine. Say it now. I cannot miss what is mine. If it is yours in consciousness, it is yours. And the bridge, being the pathway of that assumption, will lead you. Now let that settle like a weight dropping from your chest. Now for a moment, imagine tomorrow. But do not imagine it as struggle. Imagine it as flow. See yourself moving through the day with a calmness you have not known in a long time. Not because everything is already visible, but because you know it is already done. Imagine speaking with steadiness. Imagine walking with ease. Imagine making choices without the tremble of desperation. And somewhere in that day, something small happens, something that seems ordinary to others, but to you it is a signpost on the bridge, a little confirmation, a little shift, a little opening. You do not cling to it. You do not make an idol of it. You simply recognize it and remain in the feeling. Now imagine the day after that. Another ordinary day, yet the bridge continues. Another small shift, another rearrangement. A person changes their tone. A circumstance turns. A door opens. And you realize, quietly, without fanfare, that you are being led. Now let that realization become a deep comfort. You are being led. Not by an outside power that plays favorites, but by the law that responds to the state you occupy. So remain in the state. Now I want you to practice something that will keep you from interference. If tomorrow you do not see what you expect, you will not conclude that nothing is happening. You will remember the bridge is still unfolding. If tomorrow something happens that seems to go the opposite way, you will not panic. You will remember the bridge often looks like a detour before it reveals itself as the way. So tonight, we plant that understanding deep. Say inwardly, even this is part of it. Say it now, even this is part of it. And let the body relax, because you are no longer at war with events. Now we return again to the simplest seal. Enter the mood of Sabbath. The mood of it is done. The mood of completion. Not excitement, not strain. Completion. Feel the quiet gratitude of a thing already accomplished. Not gratitude because it will come. Gratitude because it is. Now, let your breathing slow. Let the hands become heavy. Let the jaw loosen. Let the thoughts become less important. And if sleep takes you, let it take you while you remain in this mood, because the bridge appears most beautifully when you stop staring at the ground for it and allow it to rise from the depths of your own being. So now, rest. Rest from asking. Rest from forcing. Rest from measuring. And let it unfold naturally as the law demands, until you look back one day and realize with a quiet smile that everything fell into place as though it could never have happened otherwise. And now, my dear friend, as you rest with these words, I want you to take one final breath, as though you are drawing in certainty itself. Not the nervous certainty that argues, not the tense certainty that needs proof, but the quiet certainty of one who has already moved within, and therefore knows that the world must follow. Do not rise tomorrow to wrestle life. Do not rise to chase, to plead, to force, to arrange. Rise, if you rise at all, as one who has already accepted the end. And if you open your eyes and see no immediate change, do not let the senses mock you. The senses can only report yesterday's assumptions. They cannot prophesy your new state, they can only echo the past. And you are no longer bound to the past. Remember this, the moment you assumed, the moment you felt it real, the moment you entered the state of the wish fulfilled, it was done. In that moment, you did not create something from nothing. You selected a state that already exists, and you placed your awareness within it. And awareness, once placed, must objectify itself. That is law. That is order. That is the way of things. So I ask you tonight to stop looking for signs as though the sign were the cause. You are the cause. Your consciousness is the cause. The outer world is only the obedient servant, shaping itself to reflect the master within. Do not be startled. Then, if life begins to rearrange itself through ordinary means, a small conversation, a sudden change of heart, an opportunity that seems accidental, a delay that protects you, a door that closes so that another opens wider. Do not call it coincidence. Do not call it luck. Call it what it is, the bridge appearing. And if the mind tries to seize the wheel again, if it tries to whisper, "But what must I do?" answer it softly, "I have done it." Not with arrogance, but with peace. Not with defiance, but with knowing. For the true work is always internal. And once the inner is set, the outer must conform. Now let your body sink into rest. Let the day dissolve. Let the arguments cease. Give yourself permission to be still. For stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is the womb of fulfillment. And in that stillness, the new state roots itself, deepens itself, and becomes natural. So as you drift, feel one thing and one thing only: it is done. Feel it as a fact. Feel it as the simplest truth you have ever known. And then do nothing more. Not because you are powerless, but because you have finally discovered the greatest power of all, the power to assume and then to rest. Sleep now in the conviction that your life is not collapsing. It is aligning. Sleep knowing that what belongs to you cannot miss you. Sleep knowing that the world will catch up to the man you have become within. And when you awaken, whether tomorrow or in some later hour, carry this one quiet certainty with you: everything is already falling into place.